6 a.m. in the Mile High City, the morning after, and my goodness, are Democrats waking up with a hangover? That was brutal. You have tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, post-debate analysis. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history. I have no idea who's running it after last night, when we're going to gear up for a whole morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So get that coffee brewing, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Listen to these headlines. Drudge Report, Operation Replace Biden, Dems scramble with 130 days to go, debate catastrophe Politico. Democrats really have no way to spin this. Wall Street Journal. The Democrats discuss replacing Biden on the presidential ticket. The New York Times, Biden struggles as Trump blusters in contentious debate. And then probably the most damning, literally, the Huffington Post saying the debate from hell, Biden's prime time disaster, full Democratic panic, Biden replacement talk. I couldn't imagine it getting any worse, Billy. I watched that last night, and this will go down in history as, oh man, they will be talking about this like they did Kennedy and Nixon.
Oh, I'm
as
not sure
Bush.
about that.
Oh man.
I don't think so.
This is the debate that killed a candidacy. You don't see that ever at this level.
Well, this was just an awful example of presidential debates as a whole. It was atrocious on both sides. It was absolutely ridiculous. And Biden came out, started poor, gained some momentum, and then ended poor. And Trump did what he normally does, filled the entire air inside the theater with lies. So it was an argument between someone that had difficulty putting sentences together and a person that has a very casual relationship with the truth, and just spouted a whole bunch of just crap. But that it was awful. That was I was a debater, and that's not even close to a debate, not even close. It was such a letdown by both people. It was atrocious. That shouldn't even be called a debate, what went on. That was an embarrassment to the idea of a debate, and an embarrassment to the idea of a presidential debate. It would be that, as far as a case study, would be exactly what you don't do, and why you don't put those candidates on the stage. And even then, I mean, Tapper and Bash did, in my opinion, an admirable job. I didn't see them being overtly liberal, nor did we see, some of the other stuff that we thought was going to happen. The whole thing about they're going to be pumping Biden up with energy drinks and drugs and other stuff like that. That obviously wasn't true. But that had been the narrative for a while. Hell, that was a narrative against Hillary. So it's not like it was a new narrative. It just was trotting out the same old, tropes. Same thing. And we heard more of the same stuff from both sides. It was awful. It was an absolute embarrassment. We should, as a nation, we should be embarrassed that these are our two candidates that we're choosing to lead the country. We should be embarrassed.
I didn't think Trump did that bad of a job. I thought he did fine. I thought he came out and looked a lot more presidential than Joe Biden. He had a lot more energy. He was very clear on where he stood. I thought the idea that kind of both were terrible, I didn't see. Biden, I mean, I'm like genuinely wondering who's running our country right now after seeing that.
The thing for me is that Biden, for me, did better on substance. Trump did better on style. And the only reason I give Biden the preference on substance, the only reason, is because at least he was dealing in reality. There was a vast number of things that Trump spouted that weren't even close to the actual truth. Not even close. But that's what he does. And so that's what they should have expected. The issue is that Biden was not in a position where he could easily push back. He doesn't have the mental capacity. So that's the issue, is that absolutely Trump won on style. He came out and he looked presidential and he was energetic and he was forceful, but it should matter the fact that the stuff coming out of his face wasn't true. That should matter, especially if we're choosing somebody to run the country. The fact that he deals in things that are completely and totally not true should be an issue. And it should be an issue that President Biden came out there and looked like he cannot handle the job for 4 years.
And Biden was pretty severely fact-checked as well by CNN afterwards. So the idea that just one side was not telling the truth.
It's not the one side, but the issue is by degrees. If you looked at the number of just flat-out mistruths that Trump told versus Biden, Trump outdid him by 3 to 4 times.
Like minimum. What? What did he say that was untrue?
That we had the best economy in history. That's not true. That he locked down the border. Not true. Not true at all. There are a series of things that he said.
Not true at all is not true.
That's not true. He didn't lock down the border. We still had people come in. We still had immigration. The idea that there weren't any terrorist attacks. Not true. A series of things. I can go through a list here in a while. Not true. Phenomenal.
I've noticed this is the left's response to yesterday's debate was to just run out there, and CNN did this right afterwards too. Donald Trump lied. Donald Trump lied. Donald Trump lied, and they never got to a lot of the specifics. So a president exaggerated.
It's not exaggerated.
We had the best economy in history.
It's not exaggerated. He just told flat out lies.
Biden's saying the exact same thing. We got the best economy. I've created 15 million jobs, all that stuff.
Yeah, but based on where the jobs were and where the jobs are now, he's correct on that. Now we can talk about whether or not he created it, and Trump has a point about COVID bounce back. But the idea of job creation, Biden has created more jobs if you look at the totals. The GDP is better under Biden if you look at the totals. Economic growth is better under Biden.
That's a stretch.
Again,
I think it's a stretch.
I know that you think it's a stretch, but that's what the facts. No, but that's what the facts show.
No. That's a particular reading of it.
No, it's not. Those are the
flat
numbers.
Trump bounce back. And I've seen the studies that show that most of the job creations are happening with illegal immigrants in this state, or in this country, not with genuine jobs for Americans.
That's not true. And we know that's not true. No, it isn't.
No, I've seen that.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have.
Okay, this is okay. So we have the illegal immigrants that have come in, and the city of Denver says they have a couple of hundred out of 42,000 that have gone through the program. And you think it's the illegal immigrants that are taking them?
That's through the workforce program.
Then
that's not somebody who's working.
How are these illegal immigrants getting hired for these jobs? How does McDonald's hire the illegal immigrant? How does the restaurant hire the illegal immigrant? What are they doing?
That's just one aspect of the economy.
There's plenty of.
I don't have to explain how McDonald's hires illegal immigrants
but those are the
to
people
say
that
that job creation is happening with illegal immigrants.
Well, then they have to be illegal jobs.
Aspect.
You would have to have employers out there hiring people illegally. If that's just saying it's happening.
No, that's exactly what's happening.
Okay,
yes,
that's fair. It's incorrect. That's fair.
No. So this is what the left did yesterday. Try to cover up for the fact that Joe Biden was a total disaster. He was fact-checked as well. And outright lies. The idea that the Border Patrol is endorsing Joe Biden, they had to come out and say that. They've never endorsed Joe Biden. So, but that was the only thing that Democrats could try to do to salvage last night's debate. We have never in the history of this country had a performance so bad by a candidate that they get replaced at the top of the ticket. And that's what's going to happen in the Democrat Party. You have an absolute scramble. Again, the Huffington Post, the debate from hell, full Dem panic, Biden replacement talk. But, Trump exaggerated a little bit. They don't have anything. It was a total disaster for Democrats. If the election was held today, you'd have a 50-state sweep in support of Donald Trump because nobody wants to put that guy back in office.
What about Donald Trump saying that every legal scholar wanted Roe versus Wade overturned? Everybody around the world. That's a lie.
And Biden lied right afterwards, too, saying that he had all these constitutional scholars that were supporting him. They both went back and forth on that.
No, Biden didn't directly lie based on that number, and that was the other issue.
Come on, Billy.
Come on. Donald Trump says that everybody wanted it replaced. That is not true. He said we had the best economy in the world.
Talks. We talked about that yesterday. He says that type of stuff all the time.
And this is the thing: it's accepted by his base that he comes out and just says stuff that's not true because you like him better, and that's fine. I can agree that stylistically he did better last night, but he lies. He lies as quickly as he breathes, and that should be.
And Joe Biden didn't lie at all last night.
I didn't say that. I never said that. I said
but
it was
you're
a degree.
leaning into the fact that Trump lied.
Yes, because it should be an issue, especially when we get into things that are fundamental to the job. He doesn't understand basic things about science. And last night, based on tariffs, he also demonstrated he has no idea how tariffs actually work. And that's a danger when you're going to put him in charge of the economy and he doesn't understand how tariffs work. That's a danger to you. That's a danger to me. That's a danger to the listener because he doesn't understand the fundamentals of how the economics works. That's a problem. Yes, Biden is a doddering old fool. Yes, but at least he understands. At least he understands economy and the economics part of it. That's the issue.
He has the same tariff plan that Trump does.
Yes, but at least he understands how it works. At least he understands how it works. At least he understands because Trump immediately and over again demonstrates he has no idea who pays the tariffs. That should be important because if he doesn't understand who pays them, he doesn't understand the impact.
I don't disagree with you that Trump is wrong on tariffs. He does the same thing that we do with minimum wage. I disagree with Donald Trump on tariffs, but we've now jumped around to a bunch of different stuff. That was a debate from hell. Headline, Huffington Post. You have never in this country's history had to replace the top of the ticket. And then every candidate in that party running this election having to face the same questions. I mean, they were stunned. They were stunned. We'll get some audio going here in a second. But the response from CNN liberal anchors right after that debate was incredible. But let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, guys. TGIF, beautiful morning outside, 65 and sunny. Expecting highs in the low 90s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
That we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Look, it was the worst debate performance of all time. I don't know why anyone's surprised. Biden was horrible. Trump did what he had to do.
What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in the way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. It's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
Down to 17 days now, in my opinion. He is gone, but he has to agree to it.
He does. You're right. By law, the only way the delegates get released is if he does it himself. Correct. And there's a lot of questions about that. But that was the nail in the coffin, right? That was a great line by Trump. I don't know what he just said. I don't think he even knows what he said. The golf line was hilarious. And
two old guys fighting about their golf score.
And Dave Portnoy had a great tweet. Dave Portnoy, who heads up Barstool Sports, said, you know, the only time you saw Trump really get frustrated and thrown off was when Biden talks about having a 6 handicap.
That is perfect.
That actually got him mad.
No, it did. I honestly, I think he could be so much better. I don't think Trump was on his game at all. I think he was mediocre at best. But you're right. That kind of flipped his switch. And then you saw Jill walking Joe off the stage last night. I don't know if you saw that. Yep. Right after the debate, it took forever for him to go up to the communist commentators who did a pretty nice job, by the way. I didn't have any problem with them. But what's interesting to me is going to be that conversation. Jill is going to have to be the one that says, now, honey, Joe, it's time. It's time we leave and we do what's best. Yeah, that dude is gonna be out of his mind. How many drugs will he be on when they tell him that he's got to move aside?
Blake, the bigger question is who's running our country right now.
Oh, and I'm about to tell you right now,
dude. We can. I mean, this is actually genuinely scary because you know. Kamala Harris, all the rest of them say, oh, he's fit. I've sat in all these meetings. He's doing great. He's, doing backflips while doing trigonometry. Come on. You have been lying to us. This guy is not home.
Right. Okay. So here's the deal, Jeff. David Axelrod on CNN after the debate. When you hear David Axelrod, you hear Obama. All right. And he's just letting us in on a sliver of what's going on right now on this soundbite right here after the debate. David Axelrod.
I think there was a sense of shock, actually, how he came out at the beginning of this debate, how his voice sounded. He seemed a little disoriented. He did get stronger as the debate went on, but by that time, I think the panic had set in, and I think you're going to hear discussions that I don't know will lead to anything. But
he knows
there are going to be discussion about whether he should continue.
He thinks he knows. These guys are leading it all. I think they set this up and they wanted to do this debate so they can make this move, whatever it is coming up. That's the way
I've seen a few other commentators say that, Blake.
Really?
I struggle a little bit with the idea that they would put him out there to kill his political career and embarrass the guy on national television. And then just the stunned reaction from CNN commentators last night. That's where I go. I don't think they saw this coming.
So I think half of them did. And then you have Vice President Kamala Harris. She didn't get the memo. She's standing up for Biden.
This was not a strong performance tonight from President Biden.
Well, it was a slow start. There's no question about that. But I thought it was a strong finish.
So they want her out as well, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
So they have to figure out how to do all this, and it's gonna be ugly in the next 2 months, 3 months. But
the question, Blake, is who did they replace him with? I put out a little poll late last night. Kamala Harris, Michelle Obama, Gavin Newsom, Jared Polis. By the way, my little poll on X, Jared Polis got 0%.
Really? Or it's someone we have no idea. I think there's a communist in Pennsylvania that they like. I can't remember. But no one knew who Obama was as well. So, but you know what? I know you guys laughed at me 2 months ago. Don't count out Hillary. I'm telling you,
dude.
I'm serious, man. I could see that happening. So here we go.
Speaking of retribution.
All right. Despite all this, Biden and Trump will hit the campaign trail today. Biden and the First Lady will travel to Raleigh this afternoon if she can wake him up, and Trump will hold a rally in Virginia. The Supreme Court still has major rulings to release, including the presidential immunity case. Possibly today or Monday. At least one suspect has been detained in connection with the violent robbery at the Denver jewelry store Joyeria El Ruby store, robbed on Monday. SWAT officers raided a motel in El Paso, Texas, of course, on Thursday, and came out with the suspect in handcuffs. El Paso. Right on the southern border. No word on the whereabouts of the other 7 suspects. 2 women and a man wounded in a Thursday night shooting in Aurora. It happened near Smoky Hill Road and East Quincy Avenue. And police say that one of the women suffered life-threatening injuries. The 3 victims were taken to a hospital while one person was detained. No word on any charges at this time. 8 people rescued at Chatfield Reservoir on Thursday night when strong winds swept through the area. Rescue crews called to the scene around 7 o'clock after several paddle boarders were knocked into the water and a boat with 4 people and 2 dogs on board capsized. Everyone brought to shore safely, but no one wearing life jackets. Wear your life jackets. Oklahoma State school superintendent is requiring all public schools to have a Bible in every classroom, from grades 5 through 12. On Thursday, Superintendent Ryan Walters announced teachers will also have to teach from the Bible and incorporate it as a part of their curriculum.
We're finally turning our schools around, man.
Yeah, man, that's good stuff. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com. The Lakers drafted one of LeBron's sons, Bronny, 55th overall in the NBA draft last night, following one season at USC. 61 in North Glen, 62 in Englewood, and 65 in Denver. I've had about 2 hours of sleep. I don't know about you. Yeah. Jeff and Bill continue. TGIF, Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
KNUS forecast keeps it hot again this Friday, but then temperatures going to be swinging up and down over the next several days. Lower to maybe mid-90s today, lower 80s Saturday, low to mid-90s and Sunday to Monday, a little bit cooler by next Tuesday. There will be some hit-and-miss showers and thunderstorms today. Touch of thunderstorm activity possible as well on Saturday, and a little better flow of moisture and scattered storms Sunday into Monday. I'm meteorologist Mark Hewer in the KNUS Weather Center. Weather sponsored by Branch Planning. Some income annuities are paying 25 to 45% more than last year. Get a free retirement review by calling Branch Planning today at 720-651-9800. Find out more at branchplanning.com.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Well, I think there's only one other time our phone lines have been totally jammed full in the first 20 minutes of the show, and that was right after Easter when Joe Biden did his transgender proclamation. All right, people are fired up over the debate response. I have never seen anything like it. The head of a major party will need to be pulled because of a disastrous debate performance. Maybe not. Some people saying, look, it was just a bad night. That happens. I was there when Mitt Romney had his first debate against Barack Obama. That was a bad night. Last night was a shock to the American system with regards to who's leading our country. And the frustration I particularly saw among liberal commentators was they believe that Donald Trump is such a threat to this democracy. How did Democrat Party leaders allow it to get to this? If you believe so much that Donald Trump needs to be defeated, why would you hide this? And then how could you have that type of performance? This is going to affect every other Democrat on the ticket. How dare you, Democrat Party leaders? There's a lot. We'll get to that in a second, but let's start to dive into these phone lines. Frank, Denver, you're up first on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Morning.
You know, last night was an audio-visual indictment, not a debate. It proved that Merrick Garland is a lot smarter than he looks or talks. And it would have been incriminatory if he'd released those tapes, the audio-visual tapes, rather than the statement. And the question is he complicit in some other form of deception, which the tapes would reveal? The sad thing is that I see is it true or is it a put on? There's a actual separation between the reality of the situation as it has been for some time and the perception of the Democratic supporters? Or do they just not know what is truly going on and continue to support? I mean, even Kamala Harris denying the obvious is an example of that. It's really sad, and we're unfortunately in a post 9/11 moment now where I think we really have to come together as a country and be strong. And I think the moderation of Donald Trump to not say much was his strong suit, more than, as Billy tries to point out, that he's not always telling the truth, and I get that.
Frank, question I got for you, here's where I think we were with the Democrat Party leadership. Because you remember, they did have a primary in 2020. They didn't want to have a contentious primary against a sitting president that was willing to run again. So, and Joe Biden had beat Donald Trump in 2020. And he was, if you remember going back to the primary in 2020, you had Bernie Sanders, you had Andrew Yang, you had all these people. And the reason Joe Biden won is because he had high name ID. People just knew who he was. And generally, he wasn't as progressive and crazy liberal as some of those other candidates that were up there. He was a middle of the road Democrat. And I think the Democrat leadership said, hey, this guy had beaten Donald Trump before. He's a middle of the road. He's a sitting U.S. president. He's got high name ID. And I think they painted themselves into a corner, and he's clearly been declining for some time. They've known it, but they put themselves in a corner to where they couldn't say anything. They were stuck with this guy, and it all spilled out last night. And at this point, they're going to have to replace him. What do you think?
He was the best they had at the time. And the sad truth is, they do have a house of cards. They're pushing a totally leftist, commie/socialist agenda, bigger pack of lies than you could not put together. And, they've done the best they can to push it. But this country can only exist on the truth as best they can. We can never solve all the problems of this country overnight or at one time. We just got to pull together and do the best we can. Like that Levi Strauss commercial with the two horses pulling in opposite direction, trying to pull the jeans apart. You're not getting any work done. But if they swing around 90 degrees each, like the Dems and the Republicans pulling together, you get a lot of work done. But the problem is, we're so polarized now between the two parties. I don't see that happening without a lot of concession and getting along together on both parts. We got a country to save.
Frank, does that require voting for someone other than Donald Trump? Don't you think Donald Trump could do some work to save this country?
Trump obviously is widespread. It is sad because the guy brings a lot of smarts to the table, a lot of capability. He actually wrote a book with Robert Kiyosaki many years ago, 20 years ago, about why we want you to be rich. And it was bringing out the best in the country. And I think that's the salvation of this country, to unleash the tremendous economic potential of minorities and all the smart people that we've got, and raising up everybody as best you can. All these other little petty arguments will be there, but we need to look at the bigger picture and what this country can accomplish. Because there's a lot of people out there that want to try to take us down.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Frank, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Frank's line will be open, so call quick because we have absolutely jam-packed lines. 303-696-1971. By the way, Billy, Mark Crowley texted, I think we got a record online audience as well this morning.
Geez.
So hello to everybody that's joining the Jeff and Bill show and watching us online.
Morning.
Like Blake, I didn't sleep much last night. Man, it's been a crazy week. You had the primary on Tuesday, and now this. All right, let's go to Ron in Greeley. Good morning. You're on the Jeff and Bill show.
Good morning.
Good morning, guys. How you doing? Hey, this thing is fantastic. If you're a Trump fan, right? Now, did you guys hear? Because to me, this is pretty lock solid that J.P. Morgan Chase and Steve Forbes have already said that Biden is not going to run?
I have not, but it doesn't surprise me. Look, most of these parties are essentially guided by the donor class, right? Because they need money to be able to do what they want. And when donors call, and you saw it with CNN last night, they were even saying, the panelists saying, the donors are breaking and they're angry. How dare the Democrat Party leadership put us in this position? They believe Donald Trump is an existential threat to this country. We could have had this conversation 6 months ago. You told us all he was just fine. And then on national television in front of the entire country to see, you embarrass us. And now we are scrambling. They are not mad at Donald Trump. They're mad at the Democrat Party leadership. The major donors are.
I'm searching and I'm seeing Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan Chase calling for Biden to drop out, or saying he's going to drop out as early as January of this year. So that may not necessarily be news. I'll see if I can find the Forbes. It wouldn't say that. It doesn't mean that Jamie Dimon in the past 24 hours didn't call for it, but it would not be something new coming from JP Morgan Chase. That would not be new based on that. But let me see what I can find about Forbes.
Yeah, because there was actually a video of Steve Forbes saying that. And then I think you hit the nail on the head, Jeff, when you're saying, did they do this on purpose? Is this the reason they did it? So they do, so everybody can see, so they do have an out, so nobody could be mad. Everybody's going to have to look at it and say, yeah, we have to find somebody. And they are saying it's going to be Gavin Newsom.
Ron, here's why I don't think it was on purpose. That was Blake who thinks it is. I don't think it was because of Van Jones's response. Unless Van is a great actor, this was his response minutes after the debate, and you see it as a very personal response.
That was painful. I love Joe Biden. I work for Joe Biden. He didn't do well at all. He did not do well at all. And he looked, I'll give you the analysis. You kind of have the old man versus the con man. I can walk you through how I'm supposed to see it and say it, but I just want to speak from my heart. I love that guy. That's a good man. He loves his country. He's doing the best that he can. But he had a test to meet tonight to restore confidence of the country and of the base, and he failed to do that. And I think there's a lot of people who are going to want to see him consider taking a different course now. We're still far from our convention, and there is time for this party to figure out a different way forward if he will allow us to do that. But that was not what we needed from Joe Biden, and it's personally painful for a lot of people. It's not just panic, it's pain for what we saw tonight.
So if Van Jones was acting there, he deserves an Oscar. I think that was authentic. I think he's responding to somebody he knew personally, flaming out in an incredibly embarrassing way on national television. What do you think, Ron?
Well, in closing, I'm going to have to disagree to an extent, because I believe that these news reporters are told what to do. For example, Joe Scarborough, when he made the comment about Joe being the wittiest guy out of everybody, and he is just sharp as a tack. I mean, that was said recently. That was within the past, 10 days that he said that. And I believe that they are on an agenda. They have to do this. And I think that, he was sincere. Van Jones was definitely sincere.
Why do they
but I think he was told.
Yeah,
why do they have to do it publicly? Why couldn't Joe Biden, and who was it? Was it Lyndon Johnson? Right.
Yeah. Well,
Lyndon Johnson just said, it's not right. I'm not going to run again. We'll find somebody else.
Yeah. And Ron, it helped me get to the idea of how they have to do it. I can understand that the people at CNN, the commentators, want Joe Biden more than Trump and are going to color their commentary that way. But what are you seeing, or what leads you to the conclusion that they have to? And if they have to, who's in charge?
Oh gosh, the people in charge are people that I would have no clue. They're so high up there. I mean, look, when you have the history of all the lies that the media has been saying that they knew they were saying, that meant they had to. They knew they were saying lies, but they still did it. Why?
Well, hang on, Ron. When we're talking about media, Ron, when we're talking about media that knew they were saying lies, the only thing we have substantively in the past 4 years is Fox News doling out almost $800 million for lying about Dominion in a stolen election. That is the only one that we have that we've been able to take to court and adjudicate it. I understand that you think it's funny, but the issue is that if they were lying, you can take them to court for those lies. You seem to be coming. I can say they are biased and and Joe Scarborough obviously wants Joe Biden to win. So is he going to say things in order to make Joe Biden look the best possible way he can? Yes. And we see it all the time on other stations on the right. Yes. But what I'm pushing back on, I'm not saying you're incorrect that they are coloring their commentary. I'm just saying you're incorrect on the idea it's coordinated. I just don't see that. I can't get there.
Well, you saw, because they did put it out there in the past where they showed the news reports and they laid one after another on top of each other to where you had like 20 news reporters and they're saying the exact same thing. It was scripted.
Yeah, but but hang on. It is, but that would be that's a conservative broadcast company that puts out mandatory must-run stories in which every single news station they own, that's Sinclair Broadcasting, every single station Sinclair owns is mandated to run certain stories, and that's a conservative outlet, and those are conservative stories, and those are mandated. That is the one example we have of an organization saying, here's a pre-written story that we're making every single anchor across our entire breadth of our properties read. We don't have that on CNN, nor have we seen that on MSNBC or NBC or ABC. I'm not saying they aren't biased. I'm just pushing back on the coordination.
Okay, then let me ask you, do you think Joe Scarborough was telling the truth when he said that?
I think Joe Scarborough was giving us his opinion. He wasn't being any sort of a news reporter.
Right, but do you think it was truthful? Do you think it was truthful?
Do I think it's his opinion? Do I think it's truthful that he's the funniest guy that Joe Scarborough knows? I think Joe Scarborough doesn't have many friends and probably has a clear circle of like 4 friends, if that's true. If that's true, that it is the funniest guy and he thinks he's so sharp, it could be true to Joe Scarborough. But is Joe Scarborough saying that Joe Biden is the funniest or quickest man in America? He's not saying that. He's saying that he knows. He's doing it from his own perspective. So is he wrong? Yeah, I do believe he's wrong. But can Joe Scarborough, could that be his opinion? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely could be.
Ron, we're just out of time. I appreciate the call. Ron's line will be open if you'd like to weigh in. 303-696-1971. We are all debate this morning following the disastrous performance by Joe Biden. Huffington Post, no friend of conservatives, leading headline, the debate from hell. Biden primetime disaster, full Democrat panic, Biden replacement talk. And then their critique of Trump further down the line. So not a good night for Democrats. What are they going to do now? Who are they going to replace him with? There's no way they go with this guy into November. They've got to replace him. Who do they do it with?
Can they replace him? I mean, I understand the idea of they need to, but can they? That's going to be interesting.
But it's not. They're not going to win. I think this put them into a position where they're going to try to find somebody, and no matter who it is, they're not going to have the name ID that Joe Biden does. So you're going to have a gap there between Trump and Biden. My goodness, what a corner they have painted themselves into. What would you do if you were the head of the Democrat Party to try to win? 303-696-1971. Dwayne, we'll get to you in just a second. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in the UK, I'm John Beaver, and here are the top stories we're following. The majority of American voters tuned in last night to the CNN presidential debate to see how 81-year-old Biden and 78-year-old Trump would do in their first debate since 2020. In New York, Haley Bianco has a look at what happened.
The two candidates walked onto the stage at the CNN presidential debate and avoided a handshake. Biden had a raspy voice, repeatedly clearing his throat, and had a halting delivery as he tried to defend his economic record and criticize Trump. Biden appeared to lose his train of thought while giving one answer, drifting from an answer on tax policy to health policy.
With the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if
Meanwhile, after not qualifying for CNN's presidential debate, independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. decided to hold his own event during the debate on X. Reporting in New York, I'm Haley Bianco, Salem News Channel.
The United States has reaffirmed its commitment to the security of the Philippines after talks between the two countries' national security advisors. Jake Sullivan spoke with his counterpart about China's recent actions in the South China Seas. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm John Beaver in the UK on Salem News Channel.
My goodness, what a morning on the Jeff and Bill show. The disastrous Joe Biden performance.
Wow.
Huffington Post calling it the debate from hell. Biden primetime disaster, full Dem panic, Biden replacement talk. Here is John King minutes after the debate.
CNN chief national correspondent John King. John, let me start with you. Your thoughts.
Anderson, this was a game-changing debate in the sense that right now, as we speak, there is a deep, a wide, and a very aggressive panic in the Democratic Party. It started minutes into the debate, and it continues right now. It involves party strategists. It involves elected officials. It involves fundraisers. And they're having conversations about the president's performance, which they think was dismal, which they think will hurt other people down the party in the ticket. And they're having conversations about what they should do about it. Some of those conversations include, should we go to the White House and ask the president to step aside? Other of the conversations are about, should prominent Democrats go public with that call? Because they feel this debate was so terrible. They do say in moments in the debate later, the president got better and got his footing, but then at the end, even his closing statement was a little halting. The contrast between the two candidates. Let me be clear. None of them, and a lot of Republicans, don't think Donald Trump had a great night. Donald Trump broke the fact check machine more than I can count tonight. That will be on the record as we go forward. He refused to answer some very specific and direct questions about his conduct, about January 6th and what all. So that will be dealt with out there. And sometimes there's a parallel universe between the political elites and the American people. It'd be nice to see what the voters say. But I can tell you, it started minutes in. It started with the first couple of answers, and it has continued throughout the night from a, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, to what do we do about this? And it involves very senior people in the Democratic Party, including elected officials, saying we have a problem.
Stunning.
Yeah, they have a huge problem.
I mean, in all of debate history.
Yeah.
To have to pull the top of the ticket because of a debate performance. Like I mentioned, I was there at DU when Mitt Romney beat Barack Obama. That was just a bad night.
Yeah.
And Barack Obama bounced back. They did like 7 debates that year.
That's weird.
There's no coming back from this. Questions abound. Who's going to replace him? What's going to happen to Democrats down ticket? And who's running our country right now?
Yeah.
That was the gut punch to me last night. All right, let's go to Dwayne and divide. Good morning, Dwayne.
Good morning, gentlemen. Was there anything really exciting about last night? I mean, you look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Bill, I see you've got your obsidian blade out right now, slicing everything up, and Jeff, you're working on your item.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of questions that I have is that all of Biden's delegates, he has to give them up to whoever they want him to give them up to.
Yep.
And Jill doesn't want to leave the White House because she likes all the goodies. And if you didn't see the video of him coming off stage in her hands, he looked like a 3-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
And did you see afterwards they went down and she kind of did, Joe, you did so great. This is wonderful. You were so impressive up there. And then Joe Biden finished by thanking North Carolina.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
the debate was in Atlanta.
Yes. The biggest thing that one should never do, and Jeff, you understand this, and Bill as well, never commit to a situation where you're weak. If you're strong, take the fight. But if you're weak, run. That's basic.
Well, Dwayne,
Machiavellian type items.
I've heard, they talked about doing 2 debates. At this point, Donald Trump doesn't have to do any more debates. Do you think?
Well, he right now, he stepped into the lion's den. He got stung with a few things. And yeah, there were some boisterous items and other items of discussion that may be considered falsehoods, but there's one he could make. He never let the border become unsecure. The border is not safe. Somebody's lying about it every day. So if you want to sit there and say lies, I'll take boisterous 10% situations and tariffs and everything else. And when you're, trying to get somebody's attention, heck, I've sat there when I've sold cars going, I'll give you X, Y, and Z, and they're coming back with other items. I mean, it's all a bargaining situation. But as long as I put out what I want to get, I'll get what we can work things out.
Yeah.
And sometimes just laying out the insanity, someone will go, you know what? I think I kind of like the original offer.
Yeah. Dwayne, you've got a point there. And this is the reason, again, Biden was absolutely awful last night. And I agree that it was the just worst performance that we've ever seen. And there are serious questions about him at the top of the ticket. Now, when I push back, and I know that people don't like it, but when I push about the idea that Trump doesn't understand fundamentals about science and the economy. I think you've gotten us to that point, and this is why I believe it's an important point. Do I mean that it means in any way, shape, or form that Trump lost the debate last night? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying the concern I have about that candidate is when you get into those negotiations and those conversations, understand this, like when you're talking to someone, how difficult is it to have a discussion or a negotiation with someone about a car that you're selling when they don't understand what the car is, how the car works, or the car's value? And that's some of what we're going to get with Trump, because based on his lack of fundamentals about international trade and how those economics work, you can take advantage of him. You can get him to agree to things that are fundamentally stupid because he doesn't understand the process. That's why I'm worried about him being in those negotiations to make those decisions. You get into something like science or you have some sort of a threat. I mean, what's he going to do if North Korea says, if you don't acquiesce to our demands, we're going to drop a whole bunch of batteries off the coast of California and we're going to electrify the water? He doesn't know that doesn't work. He has no idea that isn't a threat. That's going to be a problem going forward.
Well, that's your staff. I mean, I have a PhD in economics and sociology, and there are still things I don't quite understand 20 years later after getting that. Of course, my thesis was that nobody goes Jennings as the first choice. But I mean, still, it covered everything. But it's no joke. I have a PhD, and that was my thesis. And it has done me no good whatsoever. Even Denny's turned me down for employment. But the thing is that what I don't know is I know who to go to for people to help me get the answers I need. And
Dwayne,
that's the biggest thing that any leader has.
I think you're exactly right. I appreciate the call. By the way, Dwayne, I tweeted out at one point when Joe Biden was touting out all these presidential historians that agreed that Donald Trump was a terrible president at one point. I'm like, really? Presidential historians? I don't know if that carries so much weight. I'm not sure I really care that much. Dwayne, great call. I wish we had gotten to where Dwayne is in the world. Because isn't he supposed to be in Kazakhstan?
No, he's leaving in a couple of days. We talked off there. Yeah, a couple of days. So, yeah. But thank you, Dwayne.
Call.
Give us a call when you get back, or if you can at least send us text messages in Kazakhstan. Would love to hear what's going on, man.
I want to get a call from Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
Come on, Dwayne. Give us a call. Let us know what's going on.
I will accept the collect charges. We have to do it that way. I will then have to explain it to the people in charge here. But yeah, sure. For that day, I'll do it.
Dwayne's always a great call. All right, Marty, Joe, you're up next. And Dwayne's line's open. Give us a call. What do you think of the debate? 303-696-1971. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
like this. Jam-packed phone lines, dozens of text messages, record online viewers. It's the day after a historic failure. Wow. A debate that will go down in infamy.
This is crazy. Now, my friend, got to ask you, okay? We're going to get to the calls here in a second. We're kind of close on time. We want to make sure that everybody gets their chance to say their piece on this historic day. Not fair to cut you off quickly. So, Marty, Joe, Frank, hang with us. We'll get to you. Okay, my friend, got a question for you. Did you think Biden was going to be that bad? What was your expectation?
It was a punch to my gut when he started talking.
Oh, me too. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You were like, that is our president.
Yeah. It's as if the starting pitcher comes out and goes 5 feet above the catcher on the first pitch. And you're like,
or when Peyton Manning on the very first
that's
snap.
Perfect. That is it, man.
And
you have got it.
The whole rest of the
That's
game
it.
against Seattle in the Super Bowl was a disaster.
Yes, we just saw the ball snapped over Biden's head.
Yep.
Oh, that is perfect.
We're going to continue this conversation. Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Apropos music as Joe Biden wakes up this morning.
It is. Oh God. And for Democrats, they wake up hurting today. This is a self-check moment. And I have to say that I've always been not convinced by the idea that the Democrats were going to replace Biden. Now I'm a different mind.
I didn't think they were either.
But they can. Yeah.
I didn't think they were either. I thought, look, this guy already beat Donald Trump.
Yep. Yeah. And
he
he's
had
got
high name ID, and generally people kind of like him.
And incumbency. We know how much of an advantage. And you would think that even if he was a weaker candidate, the incumbency would help. But we didn't expect last night. That he underperformed. I was not expecting anything good. I was expecting maybe a C from him. I was expecting something maybe a notch down from what we saw at the State of the Union, because State of the Union is prepped. It's a pre-done speech you can practice. Yeah. This was off the top of his head. So I assumed that we were going to see someone that was just going to be a little bit stumbly and still be there. And that was scary. That was scary bad. And there were times in which, yes, he was cogent and coherent and was on point, and then would wander. And there are times in which, okay, there's a thing where, and it's kind of funny, that Jon Stewart has done on The Daily Show. And what he does is he does this thing where Joe Biden's kind of doing a press conference, and then he starts walking away, and then he's like, good, you did well. And then someone asks him a question, and he walks back to the podium and then messes it up. And then Stewart's like, no, go back. Yes. And last night I'm sitting there going, someone is screaming, just stop talking. Please just stop talking, because he'd get to a point where he'd make the point, and then you would see in his mind he wanted to add something else on, and then it would just veer into nothingness.
So, Billy, when Romney debated Obama here, I was backstage and I helped set up stuff and got to see the whole kind of momentum and the prep talk, and then Romney getting excited and walking out, and he had these signs over the doors that said clear eyes, full hearts, or something like that.
Oh, nice.
And then it was my job to hold a little sign for Bay Buchanan.
For Bay, okay.
Bay was Pat's sister in the spin room afterwards, and it said Bay Buchanan, and a reporter could come up, and you remember after these spin rooms, everybody would walk up, the best debate performance ever. And
Which again, I can just imagine the conversation of, do you want to be in the spin room? It's like, can you ignore what you see and just say everything was great for the candidate? Oh, yes, sir, I can do that. Alrighty, you're our guy, or you're our gal. Let's go.
So if you're wondering what it was like last night, this is kind of a sense of how Biden stumbled through.
We're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare.
That is a good overview of what happened last night.
It is.
You stumble through, and then some jabs come from Trump.
And the funny thing is in the jab, if you go back and listen to it, he's right there, and Trump refers to Medicaid when Biden talks about Medicare, or talks about Biden talks about Medicaid, and then Trump comes in and hits him on Medicare, and then corrects with Medicaid. So you're like, wait, you even messed up the jab. I'm like, damn it. I mean, on both sides, I'm sitting here going, I just wanted to hold my head and just go, oh, I need another shot of Jägermeister. This is awful. It was so bad.
Here are some of the headlines today. Drudge Report: Operation Replace Biden. Dems scramble with 130 days to go. Debate catastrophe. Politico: Democrats really have no way to spin this. The Wall Street Journal: Democrats discussed replacing Biden on presidential ticket. New York Times: Biden struggles as Trump blusters in contentious debate. Democrats talk about replacing Biden on the ticket. And then the Huffington Post: the debate from hell.
That's
Biden,
big.
prime time disaster, full Dem panic, Biden replacement talk. Never in this country's history that I know of has the debate failure resulted in the top of the ticket likely being forced to be replaced. My goodness.
Yeah. I think, and we'll get to Blake's news here in a second. I thought he was completely wrong about the idea that they're going to replace Biden. Now, I think they have to.
Who do they replace him with? How do you do this? You're 130 days out. You have a major presidential campaign and a presidential election.
Yeah.
And if you believe, and we saw this last night, Billy, if you believe that Donald Trump is a serious threat to democracy, you have got to be furious with Democrat Party leadership that has put this country in this type of place where you are stuck with this guy or scrambling to replace with somebody with lower name ID.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, Kamala Harris is less popular now than even Joe Biden is.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Gavin Newsom, Michelle Obama, the scrambling that's taking place right now? Oh, my.
If Kamala is the most logical based on how it has to function. And I'm not saying she's logical based on being the best candidate.
Yeah.
I'm just saying most logical based on Biden go, me sick. Me can't do this. Bye-bye. I have to go into retirement. That's the easiest way to make this transition. Yep. It's the easiest and cleanest, but not the one that is going to get the election won for the Democrats. The strongest candidate is Newsom. And Newsom will struggle because the perception of him nationally and California. However, the only thing that I believe could bring Newsom up to the level of Trump, and if Trump's campaign, they're smart enough to ignore this, would be, again, we're assuming Newsom is the candidate, is to get a debate. Because I believe he can do it.
Trump won't do it.
Nope, he won't. Because he's going to say doesn't need to. And that'll be the thing is, the one advantage Newsom has, Trump has to agree to. And I believe he's smart enough not to. The only way Newsom, I think, could get him is lean really heavy into you're chicken, you're scared, you're this. Because when you insult Trump personally on him, he has to respond to that.
The MMA style.
Yep, that's exactly it. He has to respond to that. That's the only way. But even then, I think the people around him would say, no, it's smarter not to. And it'd be smarter not to. Absolutely.
All right, we got jam-packed phone lines. We're going to get to those just after the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake. What'd you think of that debate?
Oh, it was disappointing because I thought Trump actually could have done better. And but what I'm shocked at is why are we surprised at this? In 2020, when Biden was in the basement, I thought he was out of it. But we just keep on. I mean, especially the left, they believe this garbage that the media is talking about. So I thought it was a waste of time, honestly. But we'll see what happens next. 68
Blake,
degrees. Yeah.
Question for you about this. So let's say that Democrats were more honest early on about Joe Biden's failures, his inability to string a sentence together. If they had run a primary with Gavin Newsom, Jared Polis, all those folks out there, and actually put up somebody that was younger, fitter, smarter, quicker, energetic, all that stuff, do you think we would have stayed with Donald Trump, or do you think we would, as Republicans, gone with Ron DeSantis?
No, I think we would stay with Donald Trump because he convinced everyone. Didn't matter if you were white collar, blue collar, or everyone in between. He was fighting for America. So I believe we would have stayed with Donald Trump, no doubt. But they would have gone with the hair. They would have gone with Newsom, the hair.
And he's young. And, he really, I think he loves this country. I think he likes it. Look what he did for California. He's just an amazing guy.
This guy has failed up all along. He was the mayor of San Francisco. No one's looking at San Francisco going, wow, Gavin, great job.
Right.
And now he's the governor of California. And people are literally fleeing the state. If that guy becomes president, I will just sit there and go, what a world. What a world that you can fail at. But I guess Billy and I have talked about it before. There are people like that in our careers that you just run into. They just fail all the way up.
Me? I was in television for years. Absolutely. 68 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the low 90s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
This was not a strong performance tonight from President Biden.
Well, it was a slow start. There's no question about that. But I thought it was a strong finish.
Vice President Harris evidently didn't get the memo backing her president, but most Democrats don't appear to be supporting Biden after last night's performance.
So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen.
Not true.
But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period, period.
All right.
Blake, there's every ad ever about abortions now going to include Joe Biden go, we are not for late-term abortion ever. Ever.
I think half the country knew that he was lying right there. I think All right. So my over under now is 17 days. I think it'll happen. Biden has to agree to step aside. If that does happen, it may be, may take 2 weeks to do that. David Axelrod is probably the leader in the Obama camp. And who knows, maybe he's running all this. And this is just a glimpse into what they really want to do.
I think there was a sense of shock, actually, how he came out at the beginning of this debate, how his voice sounded about, he seemed a little disoriented. He did get stronger as the debate went on, but by that time, I think the panic had set in. And I think you're going to hear discussions that I don't know will lead to anything, but there are going to be discussion about whether he should continue.
And another communist sympathizer, Van Jones.
But he had a test to meet tonight to restore confidence of the country and of the base, and he failed to do that. And I think there's a lot of people who are going to want to see him consider taking a different course now. We're still far from our convention, and there is time for this party to figure out a different way forward if he will allow us to do that. But that was not what we needed from Joe Biden, and it's personally painful for a lot of people. It's not just panic, it's pain of what we saw tonight.
Biden and Trump hit the campaign trail today. Biden and the First Lady will travel to Raleigh this afternoon. Trump will hold a rally in Virginia. The Supreme Court still has major rulings to release, including the presidential immunity case, possibly today or Monday. 8 people rescued at Chatfield Reservoir on Thursday night when strong winds swept through the area. Rescue crews called to the scene around 7 o'clock after several paddle boarders were knocked into the water, and a boat with 4 people and 2 dogs aboard capsized. Everyone brought to shore safely. The Douglas County SWAT team served a warrant at a home in Highlands Ranch on Thursday. The warrant was served and people were asked to avoid the area. SWAT officers threw smoke bombs into the house before they entered and took 2 people into custody. No more details given. At least one suspect has been detained in connection with the violent robbery at the Denver jewelry store, Joyeria El Ruby store. It was robbed on Monday. SWAT officers raided a motel room in El Paso, Texas, right on the border on Thursday, and came out with a suspect in handcuffs. No word on the whereabouts of the other 7 suspects, but I'm sure they may want to head south. The state's largest utility is updating its plan to better protect people from wildfires. It includes more weather stations, new cameras to monitor smoke, improved power line safety settings, and proactive shutoffs. Xcel Energy made the changes after being investigated for turning off power to 50,000 customers ahead of a windstorm in April. You may remember that one. The Lakers drafted one of LeBron's sons, Bronny James, 55th overall in the NBA draft following one season at USC. 63 in Boulder, 65 in Parker, and 68 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continued. TGIF, Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your KNUS forecast keeps it hot again this Friday, but then temperatures going to be swinging up and down over the next several days. Lower to maybe a mid-90 today, lower 80s Saturday, low to mid-90s then Sunday to Monday, a little bit cooler by next Tuesday. There will be some hit-and-miss showers and thunderstorms today. Touch of thunderstorm activity possible as well on Saturday, and a little better flow of moisture and scattered storms Sunday into Monday. I'm meteorologist Mark Hewer in the KNUS Weather Center. Weather sponsored by Branch Planning. Some income annuities are paying 25 to 45% more than last year. Get a free retirement review by calling Branch Planning today at 720-651-9800. Find out more at branchplanning.com.
Billy, we got, I think, a record number of people watching us online. I want to welcome everybody to the Jeff and Bill Show. This is a lot of fun.
We have a lot of fun. Hope you join us each and every morning. And I apologize that you have to look at me. You shouldn't have to do that. You should have someone much more attractive and youthful.
There's
and much
a reason
better to look
we're
at.
in radio, Billy.
Exactly. There's a reason I got behind the microphone, not in front of the TV camera. Now I got a camera. So I apologize. But hello. It's good to see each and every one of you. And thank you so much for tuning in today, both here on the terrestrial radio and joining us on these streams. You can see us on YouTube, X, Rumble, anywhere that they stream things, we show up. So it's kind of cool. Yeah. And a couple of we've got some shorts that Mark Crowley's been cutting recently. That showed up in my feed and a couple family members' feeds. I had someone screenshot something yesterday and go, look whose face showed up in my suggestions. I'm like, oh, that's a bad idea.
You know what's next, Billy? We're going to get that Kyle Clark wardrobe.
Oh, I need that wardrobe budget. I need that so badly because luckily we're only waist up. Because you do not want to see what's going on sometimes waist below here on this side. No, that's a bad thing.
All right, it's been quite a morning. The morning after, Democrats are a mix between total panic and a hangover. So, they're trying to figure out what to do. It wasn't just a bad debate night. I've seen those. I've been a part of those. It was a catastrophe. The Democrat Party scrambling to replace the person at the top of the ticket. This is going to affect all the other races. Who do they choose at this point? Because likability among people like Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom, Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama, she doesn't want the job. What do? You
just touched on something there. Just before you get to the caller, something very important and something that I think is underappreciated in why there's a push to move him out. We all saw the disaster last night, but the push really is coming from the down ticket. Everybody that needs that momentum, and they're like, listen, you can still run, Grandpa Simpson, but you're hurting my chances to get elected. And if you want us to retain control of the thank you, appreciate that, the Senate, and if you want us to recapture the House, we need to have someone better up top. That's it. Yeah, basically. Yep,
because
you're right.
You're Yadira Caraveo. You won by like 1 or 2 percentage points in Congressional District 8. You're up against Gabe Evans, incredibly talented, veteran, former police officer, lawmaker. This guy's coming at you with a lot of money, and he's the right candidate to come at you, and you've got to deal with Joe Biden.
Yeah. Who's excited about voting for Grandpa at this point? This is silly. That's the problem.
And it begs the question, who's running our country right now?
That's a good question, my friend.
Let's get to Marty. Absolutely jam-packed phone lines. Marty, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning.
Wow. Hey, guys. Good time to be in that talk radio business. Good for you. A lot buzzing out there. I'll tell you what, if folks had heard the term elder abuse and never really seen what it looked like, you had it on live TV. That was shameful. And there's a lot of people that owe apologies for the facade, but never underestimate, guys, the brilliance of the Democrat Party, because think about this. Had Joe Biden just kept his word and said, I'm that transition president just to stabilize the country, defeat Donald Trump, and then hand the baton, they're not in this situation. But they know that 81 million is going to be impossible to top. But check it out, guys. Hunter Biden gets sentenced in about, a few weeks? I want to outline how he can save his son. He can get a 2-for-1 DEI president. Kamala Harris, black woman. She can be president, pardon him. He pardons his son. And then guess what? The Democrats can roll out, in contrast to Joe Biden, a vigorous, a Gavin Newsom, a Michelle Obama, new energy. We're starting over, and we still have to take down that evil, wicked Donald Trump. You guys, that probably starts to happen this weekend, and we saw the end. They did that on purpose, Jeff. Don't think because they're this is not a friendly bunch of folks. They needed the American people to see, okay, we gave him a shot. He couldn't deliver. Now it's our job to go get you. And voila, we have this new radical that can take down Donald Trump. I mean, doesn't that have to happen, guys?
Yeah, got something there, Marty. I like where you're going with the idea that after seeing what happened with Biden and the Hunter Biden connection, I think you might have something there, because for me, that can give Joe the way out. And whether it's Kamala pardoning, but my thing would be Joe pardoning and then Joe stepping down, because then Kamala doesn't have to get jacketed with, hey, you pardoned the drug-addled son of the former president because he's your boss. And so if Joe takes that on, he pardons and he takes all the slings and arrows and then steps aside. You've got something there with Kamala. The only thing I have there is if Kamala's in power, it's more difficult in my mind to replace her at the convention. And Kamala's negatives are, in my opinion, much higher than Trump's are. I can't say that for certain. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I am just guessing on the last things that I'd seen, but I believe she has a higher negative quotient than Trump does. And so that becomes more difficult to say, hey, she's going to be here for a couple of months and then move. But you hit something, Marty, that was very smart about the transitional president. The smartest thing in the world would have been for Biden to step down earlier so the Democrats can go through a primary, and then he could have fulfilled that transitional president. You're right, man. You're smart or not. You're right.
But you're perfect, Billy. You're perfect with the thinking. And check it out. Sometimes fear, chaos, and urgency can bypass a lot. You don't want a candidate out there that we're researching and finding all the negative on. You want this to happen fast and out of fear, and we got to get Trump. So you guys are going to be loaded all summer. Can't wait. Thank you.
This is
God
gonna be
bless.
fun. Thanks, man. Have a great
Marty,
weekend,
great
Marty.
call.
Look forward to hearing from you next week.
Marty's line is open, 303-696-1971. We're talking all things debate. The headline from the Huffington Post, the debate from hell. Biden, primetime disaster, full Democrat Party panic, Biden replacement talk. That's coming from the Huffington Post. Let's go to Joe Arvada. Joe, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Jeff. I want to ask Billy for his expertise. I know he's a production genius.
Yeah.
I know it. What I need is you to splice Trump saying Trumps into just a couple of quick meme songs. Here.
Yeah, what ones do you like?
If you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. Trump's the man.
Oh, that's good.
And then
That's good.
also,
Yeah, I'm taking notes.
here, Trump fought the law and Trump won.
Yep. Okay, good. I will see what I can do. I don't know if I can pull this off today, but that is a good one, my friend. I appreciate that. Well done. Well done.
Well, now, as far as the debate goes, I told you it was the hook. They were setting up the hook for Joe Biden.
Now, I'll tell you this, man.
That's what this was.
Now, Joe, you and I have gone back and forth for years, both in front of the microphone and behind the microphone. And oftentimes I knock you on your predictions. On this one, you're right. You're absolutely right that this is the hook. You're right, Mike. You're right,
well, to quote Maharishi, though, the Democrats will now eat their own. You see, Kamala was Joe Biden's insurance policy. Now she's Trump's insurance policy.
Ooh, I like that. Good phrase. Good phrase, man. Nice phrase. Nicely done.
I mean, who are they going to pair her up with?
Yeah.
Forget all the logistics for a second. Kamala Harris can't win, and everyone knows it.
You're right. And here, Joe, we're going to put a pin in this right here just for a second, because I want you to be on the air when I'm saying this, because we have to realize that on June 28th at 7:23 in the morning, Bill Thorpe is going to say, Joe from Arvada was right. You were.
Yes. Oh, man, a thrill. Chills went down my legs. I've got goosebumps.
You and me both. You and me both. I can't believe I just said that, man. I can't believe I just said that. But you deserve it. You deserve it.
Well, thank you, Billy. I kind of, now I know you're not going to like this, but
That's
I kind of envision myself as like an Ayn Rand type futurist.
I can get that with you.
Well, I mean, now let me give you an example. You can pivot to Robert Kennedy Jr. and the unknown communist.
Nice job. You're on fire today.
Joe, do you think Democrats go that way at this point? I mean, he is part of the Kennedy family. They may not like everything, but he's better than Donald Trump in their minds, right?
Well, I see. The question is what are the Clintonistas going to do, and the Obamanites?
Ooh, yeah.
Together, I think, if Michelle Obama wanted to run, she would have come out long ago. Are they going to try to force her? I think what they're going to try to do is force somebody into a losing hand, and they don't want to go there. Who wants to be the fall guy?
Okay, now I'm going to have to ask you to put on your Karnak hat, and you're going to predict the future for us. So I'm pulling out an envelope that has been on the Funkin' Wagnall's porch inside a sealed mayonnaise jar for 2 weeks right now, and I'm handing you the envelope, and I'm asking you, how badly does Hillary Clinton want to replace Joe, and what is she going to do to get it, my friend?
Okay, well, this is what's happening now in CIA and FBI back rooms. They're cigar-smoking dudes trying to figure out what kind of ad they need to put out for, a Lee Harvey Oswald type for 90 days. They just need somebody to come in and, get a 7-figure, 8-figure income and kind of, help things along a little bit.
They're asking for a subcontractor. I get it. Joe, you are the best. I
Joe.
hope you have a great weekend. That was fantastic. And yet again, Joe, before you go, one more time on June 28th, now 7:25 in the morning, Bill Thorpe is saying Joe from Arvada was right. Have a great weekend.
Joe's line will be open 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. I wasn't sure I wanted to go here. I thought just briefly about it, but Joe brought it up as well.
Yeah.
Tucker Carlson at one point interviewing Donald Trump going, are they going to try to assassinate you?
Oh.
And Joe got to that with the Lee Harvey Oswald advertisement claim from the FBI.
Yeah. Although the question is the FBI looking to assassinate Trump, or are they moving Joe out of the way?
Right.
That's the question right now. After seeing the debate performance, I'm thinking it might be Joe they're trying to take out. Just guessing.
Breadman raising this on the text lines. Prepare for Biden to die soon.
Ooh. And I think Breadman has got something there because illness is the best excuse for him to step away. Not, I suck. That's much better to say I'm sick. Much better.
Yeah.
Might have something.
I mean, LBJ walked away, so it's not totally unprecedented. Phone lines filling up. If you can't get through on the phone lines because they're totally jam-packed, text on the 710 KNUS app or quickly call in when we wrap up with a caller. We'll try to get you on. Let's go to Frank in Evergreen. Frank, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Hey, good morning. Warning to all you MAGA voters out there, though I happen to be one of them. Do not become overconfident. Do not underestimate the godless, evil Democrat leadership and what they will do. They will do anything to retain power.
Where do you think they go from now, Frank? What do they do?
Gosh, my imagination just is not good enough to figure that out because they are the best at it. We know that. They're the best at elections and they're the worst at running things. And the most amazing thing to me is that, anybody who's surprised, I was pleasantly surprised by Trump. I think he didn't screw up, which he easily could have. I was not surprised at all by Biden. And I'm specifically separating the Democrat leadership from people who vote Democrat. Anybody who votes Democrat who did not see this Biden thing coming is just oblivious. They are completely oblivious. They need to be deported. They just do not deserve to be in America.
Frank, what happens in this scenario? What happens if the Democrats go, damn the torpedoes, it was a bad night, we like his leadership, we're going all the way to November, and we're going to take on Donald Trump again? Do you think they win or lose bigly?
Well, I believe Trump wins in that scenario because I think, the stage is already set for that now. I'm less confident that he would win against another candidate that would throw at him because then everything starts over. It's a reset, right? And then we start hearing about, binders full of women, and we start hearing about, taxes, and we start hearing about all this other stuff that's just simply not true. Another thing, Biden said last night that not a single soldier died on his watch. It's absurd, completely absurd. Now, Billy, that has not been proven in court, but it's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
110% true.
Yeah.
Just like when Trump was saying there wasn't a terror attack under his watch, that wasn't true either. But that's okay. Yeah, I get it. That both of them messed up on, and that was the part that got me, was we expect, Frank, you and I can agree, that we expect those politicians when they get on that stage and the bright Klieg lights hit on, they're going to tell us some lies. They're going to stretch the truth. But the thing that hit me was just the performance of both, that I'm sitting there looking at this going, this is who we're choosing from? Between the two of them, you're like, geez.
It's sad. The most sad thing about it is, does anybody know what the key issues are? No, the key issues are senile Joe and mean tweeter Trump.
God, Frank, you and I go round and round so much, so often, but you're absolutely right on that one, that we don't know what the issues are. And now the issues are the senile president and the mad guy who's also a felon that may or may not be legit. So man, you're right.
speaking of the issues, just real quick.
Yeah.
This one of these two guys that raped and murdered that poor 12-year-old girl in Houston. He was wearing an ankle bracelet. I'm trying to figure out how he got in. If they were questioning him enough to make him wear an ankle bracelet, why did they let him in?
Yep.
Does anybody understand that concept?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I agree with you. Yeah.
How do you think Trump? How do you think Trump pinned down Biden yesterday on immigration? Do you think he did good on that?
Oh, you can't. You can't pin down Jello. Come on. It's just not possible. The guy's Jello. You can't. All you can do is.
I thought he did pretty good on that. I thought he pinning him down on that in Afghanistan.
Yeah, he stated his case well. I would agree with that. But as far as pinning him down, there's no pinning down this guy. There's no pinning down.
Point, Frank.
There's no pinning down anybody in the Democrat leadership. They're all just slime balls. They're godless, evil baby killers.
Frank.
And that's all they want to do.
Frank from Evergreen, thanks for the call. His line will be open 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. We're covering all things debate. Let's go. Here's Abby Phillips yesterday.
And just to co-sign what John is saying, I mean, the panic that I am hearing from Democrats is not like anything that I have heard in this campaign so far. And a lot of it has to do with, first of all, there was a deep frustration about Trump's lies. I mean, he lied a lot tonight. But the problem for Biden was that Trump was able to take sometimes incredible falsehoods and turn them into some kind of argument, whereas Biden's answers were, in a lot of cases, not coherent, deeply problematic, that he was not able to take pretty straightforward answers and answer them to the American public. And then also at some points, bringing things up that teed up Trump attacks. So there's a real concern here tonight that there's been some real damage done that cannot be undone. Biden solidified the perception among voters, but especially among his base. They were hoping that tonight would be a game changer. They are now seeing a president who is in the White House, who they do not necessarily believe can do this for another 4 years.
Yeah, we're just talking off air. It was a game changer.
I mean, it's
not the right way.
You watch the response.
Yeah.
And like I said, Billy, typically you get people that are, he performed better than I expected. Amazing. He's going to lead our country so well for the next 4 years. It happens. It's called the spin room for a reason. Both sides go into it. And the fact that Biden's camp couldn't spin their way out of that. I have never seen that ever in a presidential campaign.
Yeah, and here's the thing that I thought, you have the Abby Phillips, you have John King, we've got David Axelrod. Blake's been playing some of the audio from him. He played the audio earlier from Van Jones, and they should be soft selling Biden's failures, and they're leaning into them. And this is just me guessing, but you're in that spin room and you've been there, you've been in that, and that environment, and the people standing there have to be the surrogates and they have to be the cheerleader.
That's what you do.
Unabashed cheerleader. And what we've heard so far in the audio are those cheerleaders at some point in the evening having to have that personal discussion with themselves of, do I do what I'm expected to do, or do I keep my personal integrity? And what we're hearing is they're keeping personal integrity. They're being honest about it. I appreciate them saying, yeah, this sucked, because all of us saw that. And if they come out and go, I don't know what you saw, but I saw the president that's ready to take on a second term, you'd go, you've been drinking as much as I have, and I'm having problems sitting up straight right now because I took so many shots based on my bingo card. That would be the problem. That is the problem.
I would love to know those. So Billy and I have to prepare for debates, so we don't drink during the debates because you got to pay attention and you're taking notes. And I send Billy this long spreadsheet of everything I want to cover. And he gets up super early and we're clipping and all that stuff. So it's a busy night for us.
Yeah, real busy.
For somebody that took a more laid back and maybe had a little bit to drink with the bingo cards, I'd like to hear what your perspective of last night was.
I had a friend text me about I think about 25, 30 minutes in. He's like, because he was going to be playing the bingo, and I'd sent him the idea. And he's like, oh, this is a great idea and stuff. And he goes, I can't do this anymore. He's like, I can't. He goes, I'm drinking too much. I can't do this anymore. Yeah, and he tapped out.
If people were like, am I seeing that? Did I have too much? Am I seeing this the right way?
Exactly. Are there 4 of them on the screen now? Because my vision's already blurry and we're half an hour in.
Joe Biden really the stone?
Exactly. Yeah.
Slow? What is going on? All right, we've got full lines. We're going to get to all of them. We're having a show like one we've never had before. Stick around. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in the UK, I'm John Beaver, and here are the top stories we're following. Last night's CNN presidential debate gave voters a rare side-by-side look at the 2 oldest candidates ever to seek the US presidency. In New York, Haley Bianco has a recap of the showdown.
President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump traded attacks on abortion, immigration, and their handling of the economy in their debate on Thursday night. Biden sounded raspy and stumbled over his words on several occasions during the debate. 2 White House officials said Biden had a cold.
Total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence.
At the halfway mark, Biden referred to Trump's conviction for covering up hush money payments to porn star Stormy Daniels, calling him a felon.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now.
In response, Trump brought up the recent conviction of Biden's son, Hunter, for lying about his drug use to buy a gun. The next debate in this year's campaign is scheduled for September. Reporting in New York, I'm Haley Bianco, Salem News Channel.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm John Beaver in the UK on Salem News Channel.
Right now, Joe Biden's waking up.
Oh, yes. Right now, Joe Biden waking up thinking, what the hell happened? Oh, God, I've lost the presidency one night.
And they called for the debate.
Yeah, you're right. This was the one they wanted, and early. Wow. Now, there was something earlier. It was Joe, or one of the other callers, talked about how this was the intent. And I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist.
I'm not. I don't see it. Sorry.
I don't either, but I could be. Again, I could be. I'm not there yet, but I could be persuaded that part of the reason, not the goal, but part of the reason to do the early debate is just in case you need to pull the trap door, because then you have a window.
Right.
So
to get them out.
Yeah, could it be? But again, I would hate to think that the planning would be behind the scenes. Yeah, he's not going to do very well. You know, we've seen him in the meetings, right? Yes, you've seen him. He's falling asleep this time. Yeah, I know. And he forgets where he is. I know. Okay, so if we do the early meeting and we do the early debate, then we can yank him. Okay, good. Okay, let's go. Go, team. That's hard for me to get to on that back end without seeing more of it. But kind of makes sense after seeing
I could
last
see
night.
them allowing it to take place to prove a point.
Yeah.
That he needs to walk away, right?
Yeah.
So imagine there's conversations happening behind the scenes and Joe Biden's team's going, no, he is the right guy.
Yeah.
We already defeated Donald Trump. We're 4 years in.
Yeah.
We can do this. We're the incumbent. And the other side going, all right, prove it.
Yeah. It's like the first time that your child takes the warm soda and pours it into the glass and then goes and grabs the ice. And you're like, yeah, this is going to work out well. But if I tell you it's not going to work, you're not going to listen to me. So we're going to sit back and watch. We're going to see
the
what
idea
happens.
they orchestrated it, I don't know. That's I'm struggling to get there. Let's go to our wonderful caller from Wyoming, Mary. Always great to hear from you. You're on the Jeff and Bill show. Good morning.
Good morning, all. One of the things that I guess I wanted to share on that is what you're saying is that the Democrats seem always to be a step ahead of us, of the Republicans. I think that you don't like the idea of a conspiracy, but I believe that it was set up. They know they have to get rid of Biden. And one of the ways, and then I keep bringing up, Billy, and I'll ask you, do you think the Obamas would have gone for a third term if he was able to?
Yes, I do believe so. I think he would have.
All right.
Yeah.
And you keep saying that they do not want to be involved. I believe it will be the Obamas. And I will believe it this two ways. Either Michele, and if you look at MSN during the day, they're running 3 to 4 stories a day about Michele. 27 gowns that she wore when she wore. Her fundraising and support on her nonprofits. There are 3 to 4 stories a day on MSN.
Yeah.
About
here's
Michele.
the thing, Mary. Now, the reason I've pushed back on the idea that Obama is running the Biden White House, the reason I've done is because I believe Obama would want to have the third term. I believe he probably would have won. And I also believe that he would like it because he's president. The issue that I always push back on the idea that he's behind the scenes is simply because he does all the hard work and doesn't get any of the credit. And that's the part that I have a hard problem, because being president is one of the most difficult jobs on the planet. And I can't, in my head, imagine anybody being willing to take on one of the toughest jobs on the planet and get zero credit for doing any of it. That's the part that I think.
But Billy, he doesn't have to sit there and do everything every day. He's just calling the strings. It's his policies that are doing, and he has all kinds of lackeys. He has all kinds of lackeys,
but again,
like Rice and etc., to be able to do the what do you want to call it? Hands-on kind of thing. And one other thing. One other thing. He couldn't run for a third term because he was elected. There is a way in the Constitution that those superdelegates could put him in and make him president.
I'm not sure about that when there would be a constitutional charge. And I understand what you're saying. And this is it. That I still believe that fundamentally, someone that runs for office, there has to be an ego involved. And someone that runs for president, there has to be a large ego involved. Because imagine what you think as an individual of yourself going, yes, I am the person that needs to run the country. That's an entire ego thing. And that's why that's why I have a difficulty believing that Obama, even with that ego, would be behind the scenes not getting credit.
He wanted to he was going to change the world. And if he's responsible for getting that done, you don't think there's satisfaction? That is his life work.
No, I don't think so.
That is his life's work.
But he doesn't get credit for it. That would be like Stephen King releasing the most incredible series of novels that we've ever read and not putting his name on the cover and not telling anybody he wrote them. That would be,
You don't think the Democratic, the leadership are not doing that or not stroking him? I mean, I just don't and you think that we have, I believe that he is so far into changing into this country.
Mary,
that's fair.
Look, Mary, I've worked in politics. Oftentimes it's a sign of greater power that you can influence and nobody knows except for the handful of people at the very top. That's like when you have serious power. And the guys that write the big checks to dark money groups, they never do a press release. They never are tweeting about it. That is when you know you got serious power in this country. So, Mary, I agree with you. I think Barack Obama is involved in all of this. He's still active because, look, he's not out there windsurfing right now. He's staying involved because, to your point, he wants to fundamentally transform this country. Mary, I always appreciate the call. Thanks so much, Mary from Wyoming. Oh, boy, Billy, we're up against the break here.
I know, we got to step aside.
All right, so Ralph and Francis, we'll get to you in a second, but Mary's line's open. Quick, dial in because we've had literally jam-packed lines the entire time. If you want to tell us about what happened last night, who the Democrats are going to replace Joe Biden with, where do they go for now? 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Mary Jacqueline texted in. She says, Mary is absolutely right. There you go. Appreciate it. We'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Is Biden done?
Lots of news coming through. Billy, I just saw this on Twitter.
Yeah,
Thomas Massey's wife died.
Oh, gosh. That's awful.
That's horrible. I'm sorry. I'm really impressed with Thomas Massey's leadership, but man.
Oh, that stinks.
Wow.
Oh, man.
All right. Let's go to Ralph. Colorado Springs, you're on the Jeff and Bill show. What did you think of the debate last night?
Before I answer that, let me point out something. Both of you are too young to remember how I am not a crook, Richard Nixon, became president in 1968. LBJ stepped aside. Then LBJ undercut and sabotaged Humphrey. Ergo, Nixon becomes president. What the Dems are terribly afraid of, and Jeff, you hit two of them out of the park on this, is number one, you have to allow Biden to debate in order to, as you put it, prove a point. The second thing is, you also pointed out that real political power lies with the people who are pulling the strings. So think about what happened tactically if you want to not repeat the disaster of Humphrey, LBJ, and Nixon. I don't know if it's a conspiracy. I don't know when it started. Fundamental. Go.
Well, Ralph, help me understand where the Democrats go now. What's the next step?
Well, the candidate they're looking for has no political background whatsoever. All they have to do is find someone who is not Donald Trump, who has no political, how shall I say, garbage or not very much, and simply run it as anyone but Trump.
Yeah, that's not a bad strategy.
An effort to save the Constitution, to save the democracy, to save the republic. That's where they'll go. I don't know if it's compelling enough, especially if they have low name ID and people are like,
well, but the thing about it is two things. Number one, I'm up here because I know altitude, so that makes me higher than you guys. And
you said it,
every
not us.
night I could. I'm sorry?
I said, you said that, not us. I'm just teasing you. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, well, we'll start a war between Colorado Springs and Denver for yachts.
Yep.
But no, every night I can see Cheyenne Mountains entry port. Remember that nuclear war?
Yep.
Okay. When Trump was president, I have read that both the Secretary of Defense, Jim Esper, and General Miley had to consent before the nuclear football would work. Trump could give an order, but they didn't have to take it. This goes back to Nixon with Schlesinger, his Secretary of Defense, who had a standing order that no nukes were to be launched without his express approval, no matter what Nixon did, because Nixon got drunk too often. So I'm sitting here looking at Cheyenne Mountain, and what I'm thinking is, okay, Biden is, how shall I say, no way in hell. But do I want someone, Donald Trump, who has a great deal of difficulty telling truth from fiction, leading our country with that nuclear football? And he's not going to have the adults with him this time because he's purged them that he had last time.
Ralph, great call. We're just out of time. Yes, 70% of people saying they want different picks. I disagree. I think Donald Trump would be great. I want to see another second term, but oh my goodness. We'll continue with this conversation about last night's debate. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
8 a.m. in the Mile High City, the morning after historic debate, the Huffington Post, the debate from hell, Biden, prime time disaster, full Democrat Party panic as Biden replacement talk takes place. Wow.
Wow. That's from HuffPost. Ouch.
That is Huffington Post. You've
yeah.
tuned into the Jeff and Bill show, by the way. Here's a little sense of what happened last night. This, Billy, was the nail in the coffin.
Move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
Ooh, that was good. That we always talk about those one-liners, those zingers that'll stick. For me last night, that's the one that sticks.
That was, I think, in everybody's mind.
That's the one that sticks. Yeah, that's the one we're going to be playing 4 years from now. Absolutely.
And Billy, you remember how you and I were talking about the nature of entertainment versus policy debate and all that stuff?
Yes.
Okay. So people remember that line and they'll remember golf.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've been looking for the audio. I've been able to get that
We'll
one.
get that. But
golf.
The two old guys, like out of grumpy old men debating their golf. I've seen your swing. It's not. You're not under 6.
Yeah, and I have a club championship. And
won the club championship,
which is great because if you go back to Stephen, is it Steve King, the SI reporter who did the book about Trump lying about golf? It's that he fixes, he rigs it so that he's the club champion. What he does is he comes out and plays one of the first rounds at the club and then says, now I'm the club champion, and just puts the plaque on the wall and says, that's it. Or what he'll do is he will manipulate the contest in order to be the club champion. There's a story where he couldn't get to the whatever the event was where they were naming the club champion. He then said, come on out, let's go play a game afterwards. And the guy's like, yeah, sure. And brings out his kid. And then at the end, Trump ends up scoring better than him. He goes, see, I beat you. Now I'm the club champion. The dude's like, hang on, wait a sec. That wasn't what we were doing. But he just took it from him. Yeah. So again, but that's good. But the idea that Biden has a 6 handicap, my Lord, no, there's no way. And why in the world would you go after and talk about golf with Trump unless you were sitting there and saying, you waste time, you're too distracted by it, or the number of days you spent in the last term when you were in office playing golf. That's the hit.
Right.
Don't talk about your own personal handicap.
And who
it's
can
not
outdrive
about you.
whom.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
All right, we've got absolutely jam-packed phone lines. Once somebody finishes, you got to quickly dial in so you can be on the show. We want to hear your perspective. What happened last night? Was it rigged? Where did the Democrats go for now? If the election was today, would it be a 50-state swing for Donald Trump?
Yeah, he'd Mondale him.
What happens to our country? My biggest question, Billy, last night, who in the world is actually running our country?
It's a great
because
question.
The dude on the stage named Joe Biden ain't running the country. He is not the leader of the free world. I don't think he can even find the bathroom.
Yeah. And if he is, we all should just get a helmet today because something bad's going to happen.
Right?
Yeah.
No. I posted this meme, and it's the chairman of the Chinese party or the Chinese country on the phone with Putin going, did you just see that? And then he goes, hold on, I got someone on the other line, and it's Kim Jong-il going,
oh, geez.
Yo! They're all on the phone together.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. They're doing the what's up. Yeah.
All right, let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Speaking of what's up, Blake?
All right, good morning. 72 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the low 90s today. The 710 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like, and we have to get a lot of these people out, or we have to get them out fast.
When he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure they were, and the families were separated.
So President Biden may be asked to step aside by Democrats after last night's performance. We'll see, even though he was at a Waffle House afterwards and thought he did well.
How did you perform tonight? I think we did well. Any concerns about your performance? No, it's hard to debate a liar. New York Times pointed out he made lied 26 times.
Hard to debate a liar, and he say he lied 26 times. Man, that's worse than what Billy thought, I think. I just want to know what song was playing in the Waffle House behind him. You could hear that.
Yeah, what was that?
I don't know. What here? Let's try it again. Let's see.
I think you did well. Any concerns about your performance?
Man, that sounds like
hard to debate a liar.
that's not Taylor Swift.
Yeah, it's close to Taylor, but yeah, who?
Okay, I think
yeah, it's close.
that needs
but it's
to be
not.
the game. Forget
Yeah,
bingo.
what is that? Yeah, that is. Name
What
the
song
tune.
is playing under Biden because we can't hear it?
How cool would it be if it was some sort of sad song about I failed, I'm not doing
Right.
well, I'm sad? That would be
No,
just so
there's a
good.
good chance
Yeah,
of that.
exactly.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
by
Yes, all by
myself.
myself. Yes, you're right, Jeff. That's gotta be the song.
Well, his cheerleaders, Jen Psaki and Joy Reid, they've even put down the pom-poms.
Well, I've been listening to what you all have been saying, and I don't think we should sugarcoat this. This was not the debate performance that the Biden campaign team wanted or needed. I, too, was on the phone throughout much of the debate with Obama, world people, with Democrats, with people who are political operatives.
I'm glad she tells us
operatives.
that.
My phone really
Right.
never
World
stopped buzzing throughout. And the universal reaction was somewhere approaching
I
panic.
think she was trying to say world order people.
That's what I thought too.
Right?
The World Economic Forum was calling.
Yes.
Time for a new puppet.
Vice President Harris, a lot of throats believe and guessing will be asked to step aside as well. On with Anderson Cooper.
So I'm not going to spend all night with you talking about the last 90 minutes when I've been watching the last 3.5 years of performance.
But this was a debate
go
that
that route.
your campaign wanted. You pushed for this debate at this moment. Obviously, I mean, you can't honestly say, I mean, can you say that you are not concerned at all having watched the president's performance tonight?
It was a slow start. That's obvious to everyone. I'm not going to debate that point.
One of our great listeners, Joe, man, I love this dude. He knows what's happening.
I told you it was the hook. They were setting up the hook for Joe Biden. The Democrats will now eat their own. Kamala was Joe Biden's insurance policy. Now she's Trump's insurance policy.
That kind of sounds like Biden, actually. Biden and the First Lady will travel to Raleigh this afternoon as the campaign continues. Trump will hold a rally in Virginia. Representative Thomas Massey from Kentucky reporting on his X account that the love of his life for 35 years, Rhonda, has passed away. They have 4 children. Man, really smart, creative couple. I saw him on Tucker and watched him for about 2 hours about a week ago. Just incredible, man.
She had degrees from MIT, an engineering degree from MIT, and devoted her life to her family.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's pretty cool. That's sad news, man. I guess the story he told about building their house, they built their house, they're off the grid. It's pretty amazing. That's sad news. Just came down about 10 minutes ago. The Supreme Court still has major rulings to release, including the presidential immunity case. Possible we will hear that today or Monday. Train service between 2 Colorado communities is back on. A mudslide last weekend covered 200 feet of track of the Durango and Silverton narrow gauge railroad, cutting the scenic tour route in half. It took crews 6 days to remove the rocks and debris. 2 women and a man wounded in a Thursday night shooting in Aurora. It happened near Smoky Hill and East Quincy. One of the women suffered life-threatening injuries. The 3 victims were taken to a hospital, and while one person was detained, no word on any charges at this time. Bronny James, son of the 3rd best player of all time, LeBron James, drafted by the Lakers last night, 55th overall. 68 in Broomfield, it's 69 in Lone Tree, 72 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue on Friday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your KNUS forecast keeps it hot again this Friday, but then temperatures going to be swinging up and down over the next several days. Lower to maybe mid-90s today, lower 80s Saturday, low to mid-90s and Sunday into Monday. A little bit cooler by next Tuesday. There will be some hit-and-miss showers and thunderstorms today. Touch of thunderstorm activity possible as well on Saturday, and a little better flow of moisture and scattered storms Sunday into Monday. I'm meteorologist Mark Hewer in the KNUS Weather Center. Weather sponsored by Branch Planning. Some income annuities are paying 25 to 45% more than last year. Get a free retirement review by calling Branch Planning today at 720-651-9800. Find out more at branchplanning.com.
Well, all the headlines aren't good. Drudge Report, Operation Replace Biden. Dems scramble with 130 days to go. Debate catastrophe.
And talking about background songs, this song's about when we were young. Yeah.
So there's a great meme going around right now. So after the fact, Jill Biden led a little chant, right? After how great Joe Biden did. But there's this picture of her. She's very angry.
Oh, yeah.
And she's kind of screaming into the microphone. It's not a flattering picture. And someone put it next to, I believe it's Metallica, and it's saying, "We're off to Never, Neverland."
I love that. And that is a music person that knows that reference, because that song, Enter Sandman, started out as a dark lullaby. And the music producer didn't think they'd get to play on the air because it was so dark. They're like, listen, the guitar parts, the drum, the bass are solid. This is a hit. Words suck. And so, but Hetfield liked that chorus so much that he kept it, but everything else he rewrote. Yeah, so it is a dark lullaby. So yes, Often Never Neverland is absolutely perfect for that one. Yep.
Political headline this morning: the movement to convince Biden to not run is real. The movement to convince Biden to not run is real. That's inside baseball in Washington, D.C. Wall Street Journal: Democrats discuss replacing Biden on presidential ticket. The New York Times: Biden struggles as Trump blusters in contentious debate. And the Huffington Post: the debate from hell. Biden, prime time disaster, full Democrat panic. Biden replacement talk. I have never in the history of America seen a debate go so bad to the point where the party itself, not just saying it was a bad night, but saying we must fundamentally alter how we approach this November campaign. We need to replace the top of the ticket. Here's David Axelrod.
We said at the beginning that each person had a fundamental goal. And for Biden, that goal was to appear energetic, engaged, and look like someone who is capable of serving for another 4 years for president. That was job number one. I actually think he scored a bunch of points. I think if you just judge this on sort of policy stuff, he did score a bunch of points on issues like abortion, for example, on some of the economic issues. But there is a feeling, I think there was a sense of shock, actually, how he came out at the beginning of this debate, how his voice sounded. He seemed a little disoriented. He did get stronger as the debate went on, but by that time, I think the panic had set in. And I think you're going to hear discussions that I don't know will lead to anything, but there are going to be discussions about whether he should continue. And I think part of it is Donald Trump did not meet his mission either. He could not resist the temptation to be nasty, to prevaricate about a whole bunch of things, about his own record, about Biden's record, and to seem petty and small at times. So what you saw was a candidate who's deeply vulnerable and a president who may not be able to take advantage of it.
David Axelrod responding just minutes after the debate concluded yesterday. Let's go to the phone lines. Francis Golden, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Where do Democrats go from here?
Morning.
Morning.
So that's a double meaning this morning because the Democrats are in mourning too. This is a problem.
That's right.
I was watching that and I got to a point where I felt like man, it's like call the fight. Like
throw in the towel.
I was feeling sorry for Biden, and I'm not a Biden guy. I'm just not a Trump guy either. But I was like, just stop it. I mean, it's no fun to see something like that. You know, I don't need somebody. Trump didn't curb stomp him or anything like that. He just fell down and hit the curb.
Yeah.
And that's all it was.
Oh,
And
yep.
you know, I was listening to some of your callers. I really liked them. Joe and Mary, I wonder, I'm not a big conspiracy guy because it generally takes too much energy and it's always impossible to pull off. But I think that what happened here behind the scenes is that, you know, people who have age-related dementia can backslide real quick.
Yeah.
Yep.
And at some point in this whole process, somebody must have said, hey, how are we going to get this fixed? Or how are we going to, you know, we have to get him off the ticket. And he has all the delegates. And how are we going to do that? And let's call a debate early. Let's see if we can't get some rational people to stop him from continuing forward.
But
I
Francis,
just, I don't know.
if that's the case, and this is where I think Bill and I agree, right? So LBJ stepped down. He didn't need to embarrass himself publicly in order to do it. This isn't totally new ground for somebody to go, you know what? I stepped in, I did my time, I'm ready to go do something else. It's somebody else's turn. Why did they have to publicly embarrass Joe Biden on a historic national level in order to achieve that?
Yeah.
I have a theory.
What is
I
it?
think similar to the Republican Party, where you have basically an open civil war going on internally. I think there's huge, problems in the Democrat Party too. I think there's factions that form and get behind certain people and other people. And I think when you have Biden's one characteristic, you know, is that he's a fairly stubborn guy. That's what he's historically been. And so I think that you had to do something here where there's probably people behind Biden who would want him to run and be on the ticket one way or the other, and others who just see the reality that he's not capable. And so, this is how you do it. One side, makes the move and gets the debate called early, and now it becomes, entirely into the Democratic, party power structure to figure out what to do.
Yeah, Francis, you got a point there. And like you, I am not a big conspiracy person. I make that very open here on the air. But I think there is some conversations behind the scene that you're correct about, and other callers have been correct about, that there had been sort of a possible setup for Joe Biden. And I was always curious about the early debate. We are so far away from the actual election. How can something this early possibly, based on our news cycle and how quickly we forget things that happen, how could this one be a differentiator unless you are doing the parental thing we talked about earlier? You're allowing the child to make the mistake. You're allowing Biden to get out there, and you're allowing everybody else to see what was wrong. And I think you're right about different factions inside the Democrats, because I believe that's how the Democrat Party functions. Is there a bunch of little tiny groups and organizations that coalesce and every once in a while decide to go the same direction, where I see some more, I guess I would say, rigid boundaries inside of the Republican Party, because they throw people out of the tent all the time, where the Democrats just kind of go, yeah, I know you're a socialist, and I know AOC, you're a little loud, and Bernie, okay, you can vote with us even though you're kind of crazy. So I think you're right that there may be more machinations behind the scenes, and Democrats are known for that, being able to fight behind the scenes where Republicans like to fight out in the open. Jeff talks about that all the time, that maybe what we are seeing is, again, I'm not convinced of it yet, but maybe this was the idea. Okay, let's see how he does. We will give him what he wants. We'll let him run. But the safety valve we've got is doing it so early in this election cycle that it still gives a chance to replace him if he does exactly what we saw last night.
Here's what worries me, and I think it supports my theory a little bit, is right after the debate, within minutes afterwards, they trotted Biden out in front of some, crowd of people. And it was, I think, other than in the Waffle House or whatever.
Yep.
And he was much more, he was much more coherent sounding. And it tells me that somebody maybe the keep Biden on the ticket faction is immediately, they saw what a mess it was. And they said the first thing you got to do is get out in front of the public again, right away, close in time, and sound at least like you aren't completely, cheeses off the cracker.
Yep.
And I think that's what happened. But what's going on right now is those coalitions that you talk about, because I think that's right, Billy. That's how the Democrats operate. It's almost like they're all different coalitions, and they don't fight in public. And I think right now what you have is probably a majority of the different factions, working together to try to figure out who do we put in and how do we get him to release those delegates. That's another problem. How do you get Biden to release the delegates?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
Because it has to be him.
Yep, has to be him. It can't
legally.
Be
nobody else can take them.
Yeah, because they are his. Because otherwise, you would have the party coming and taking them from the people they didn't like. So that's why it's built that way. Yeah, absolutely.
This almost sounds like it drifts into a legal realm. But at some point, if he doesn't want to release the delegates, can somebody can you get somebody appointed for him and do it that way? Because I think he's near that point.
Yeah.
And if he's backsliding as fast as he appears to be, and what I think prompted all this, he may be to a point where he needs a conservator or something. And I don't know.
President of the United States. I mean, at this point, that's an Amendment 25 issue.
We're gonna do the president like we do Britney Spears. We're gonna put somebody else in charge of his money and everything else. The president becomes Britney. And that means at some point he's gonna shave his head and be outside the White House hitting cars with an umbrella.
I mean, it's kind of a when you do something like that for somebody whose faculties are diminishing quickly. You don't necessarily need to do it if it's just a matter of you don't want them necessarily being around hot stoves, and you don't want them necessarily messing with the checkbook. But this is a different thing. He's running for president. He is in charge.
He is the
delegates.
leader of the free world. Yeah, Think about what Iran thinks this morning. North Korea, China, Russia are enemies.
Yep.
There's a serious threat to national security taking place right now.
That spooks me. And because they're not, those people, those countries, intelligence people they're not stupid. They see it, I think, the way that I'm seeing it is that there's factions that are trying to pull strings in the Democratic Party. And that means that it's really diffused. Like there's no real power structure there right now. And it's not like the super conspiracy theories where they think that it's just like a Biden or Obama in absentia administration. It isn't that. It's run by coalition factions, which means it's power vacuum. It's a problem.
Francis, do you think Jared Polis woke up this morning or late last night and texted the Democrat donors and said, "Let's make a run for it"?
Dude, you just read my mind all along last night. I was thinking this, and I wanted to go there. Here's the deal. I think you cannot have. Well, first of all, Hillary Clinton, been there, done that. That ain't going to work. And she's not exactly a spring chicken. I mean, for heaven's sake. But I don't think that you can roll with Kamala Harris at all. I think that's a dead end. The other question is, and Michelle Obama said, I don't want it. And I'll take her at her word. I don't think, of any of those people, she's probably the most honest by a long shot. But, I think you got to almost, and I don't think Gavin Newsom's the answer because he has nothing but California to point to as a result of his wonderful leadership. I think that what the Democrats almost have to do to have a puncher's chance is trot out somebody who's a little bit unknown. And the reason I think they have to do that, and who's a little bit moderate, not crazy. And I think they have to do that because it puts and I'm going to say it, the MAGA cult on a bit of an island. It creates the unaffiliated voter option versus Trump.
But and Francis, why not just go Robert F. Kennedy? You just described him.
Oh, he's nuts. No, I think because
yeah, he is.
I just think he's kooky as hell. I mean, look, you can disagree with Jared Polis, but he's smart, and he's a smart, articulate guy. Disagree with him all you want, but Robert Kennedy, I think his cheese might be further
I
off
think
the cracker
Jared
than
Polis is boring. Have you ever actually watched him give a speech? There is no energy there. This guy got into his office because he bought those offices. There's no way that translates to the national level. I don't see Jarhead getting there.
You know who? Okay, I'm going to be a little nasty here, but Jared Polis, he looks like a cartoon character, and I think it was Deputy Dog is who it was. He was kind of this drippy drawers kind of guy, almost like an Eeyore, almost similar to Eeyore too, kind of jowly and mopey. But I don't. Honest to God, you guys, I don't mind boring right now. I've had enough of the work.
Yeah, you're right.
That's good. Francis, appreciate the
thank you.
call. Francis from Golden. His line will be open quickly. Dial in if you want to be a part of the conversation. Because we have full phone lines, 303-696-1971. Sorry, Billy.
I know what the song was for Blake earlier that we were talking about.
Yeah.
And it's not because of me. It's because of friend of the show,
Jorge.
Sheriff Steve Reams.
Oh, Steve
Yes, I
Reams.
know. We have law enforcement people that can arrest me, actually listen to the show. And that worries me at a level that Steve doesn't really understand, Sheriff. You don't understand how much that scares me, but I appreciate you listening. He shouted out and said, that's Miranda Lambert's The House That Built Me. And yeah, he's right. At the tone of the voice, everything else. Yeah, that's Miranda Lambert, The House That Built Me. Fun song. Yeah. So thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Sheriff.
Want to talk to you all a little bit about Roll 'em Out Shelves before we get to the next caller. We've gotten to know Joyce and Brent Tolliver through working here, and these are absolutely delightful people. First of all, it's like having your mom and brother over. They are so personable. We talked faith, we talked family, we talked our love for country, and had a great time, great conversation. Then we got to work, and they measured all of our cabinets in our kitchen and were able to put together a package for us that is absolutely fantastic. It has transformed our kitchen and makes it so much easier for us to access our essential items. Roll 'em Out Shelves are these Baltic birch shelves built right here in Colorado, and they're built to last with a lifetime guarantee. Absolutely wonderful. And then you can access like the back of your cabinets now. So things aren't piled in back there or hidden or lost. You're able to get them, especially if you're getting older. This is a wonderful thing to install in your kitchen. And they believe in this show. So they believe in us. They're wonderful people, and it's a great product. Begin the affordable transformation in your home for less than $1,000 when Roll 'em Out Shelves efficiently organizes your space with sturdy Baltic birch shelves built right here in Colorado and guaranteed for life. Call for your free in-home estimate today, 303-475-9601 or rollemoutshelves.com. Be sure to tell them Jeff sent you. Rollemoutshelves.com. All right, let's go to Jim in Littleton. Jim, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good morning.
Morning.
What'd you think of that debate, Jim?
Well, I'm coming away with who's running our country. And I really now believe in the conspiracy theories about a deep state and a cabal of people in the Biden administration. And I just wish I would know who they are. I think Obama is clearly in it, and a lot of the minions under his administration have been in there. And it kind of confirms what has been said a long time, that Biden's not been cogent for a long time. And it really concerns me. And I think that people outside of this country now are seeing what has been whispered about. And,
Jim, I mean, for the last 3 months, Kamala Harris, Joe Scarborough, all these people, Alejandro Mayorkas, have been out there saying, oh, I've seen Joe Biden in meetings. He's brilliant. He did backflips while doing trigonometry and solved world hunger. They go out there and say all these great things. They have been lying. They have been lying. Jon Stewart called them out on this when he said, have you any video of these conversations? Yeah. How about you put that out? How does it make you feel that last night, all these lies from the media, from the New York Times, from NBC, from MSNBC, from the Vice President of the United States, from cabinet members, that Joe Biden is fit for the office that he serves, have been totally exposed? He is not. They have been lying. How does that make you feel?
Well, it's just from a point of view, it's a concern right now of who's running the country again, and I haven't felt comfortable for. I think the State of the Union is what everybody was hoping would come out because he was fiery in that one, and it seemed. I think they were hoping that would happen, but the point is, there's a difference between coming out rote and versus thinking on your feet. And
you're right,
those are
Jim.
the two things. And that's what happened. We saw what happens with Biden. And, the point of the matter is, matter of fact, I don't think he knows of the various crises in this country. I don't think he
I disagree with you on there, Jim. I appreciate the your sentiment on that. I disagree with you that he doesn't know, but I would agree that he may not be intellectually competent to process it on a level in order to solve it. Now, I want to ask you a question. It's like I disagree with you on the idea that there's the deep state behind running him, and only I think that you're right, though, that there are some Obama lackeys, but those are Obama lackeys that Biden picked. And what I see after their performance last night is that Biden is probably not in charge, but the other people in the certain areas like Mayorkas. It would make sense why Mayorkas screwed up immigration so much, because he was totally in charge of it. He didn't have to check with Biden. And that's what I think it is. I've been in work situations where you have a very weak leader, and that lets the people below them have a lot of power. And if you get someone there in that level, in that mid-level manager, that person, if they're good, can do a lot of good. If they're bad, can do a lot of bad. But here's what I want to ask you about, Jim. Last night, if you think that there's, the deep state running it, etc., and they were hoping for the State of the Union, but behind the scenes, they knew exactly what we saw last night. They've seen it day in and day out, what we saw with Biden. Question I have for you, and this is kind of a conspiracy theory, and because you kind of leaned into it earlier, do you think that there are people in power in the Biden administration and at the DNC that set Biden up? That's why they asked for this early debate, for everybody else to see how bad he is, so it gives them a window to replace. Do you think that could be the conspiracy theory?
I think there's a faction within the Democratic Party, the donor class, that felt that way. I would not dissuade that, and I believe that this was this early would be an example of that. Now they have another debate.
Yeah,
they have another debate, so
they won't.
There's another chance
they
to
won't
recover.
Nope. Trump's not going to debate. No need to. He's not going to be a part of it. He's going to go. He could even claim, I don't want to engage in elder abuse.
Yeah.
He won that. There's no way he has to debate anymore. And if I was advising him, I'd say, go hold a rally instead.
And you know what? And Jim, I want you to react to this one, that what Jeff just said there. The idea of the message from Trump, the idea that he doesn't have to debate, rather than making an excuse, that he turns it and says, I can't put Biden or the country through another night like that. It's not fair to Joe to bring him out in public and make him look that bad. What do you think about that?
I don't think that's in Trump's character.
Interesting.
That guy, he's a fighter. He's a fighter, and anything that makes him look better, and he did look better. Here's the one thing: we came out expecting Trump to be Trump. I guess that would be the way of. And actually, he was very measured, and he did not explode like he typically does, which I think is to his credit. And so there was a different Trump that came out as well.
Yeah,
we've seen the real Trump when he just goes off on you and stuff like that, and that didn't happen at all. But I think it benefits Trump to see these debates, because we got to see him as a presidential candidate. It's been 4 years since we've seen it, and I disagree. I think if he doesn't debate, I think he's missing an opportunity, because the number of people that will watch the debate in order to see Trump as president far exceeds any of his campaigns.
Jim, I appreciate the call. I got to get to some breaking news coming from the U.S. Supreme Court. We have a decision in the Chevron deference case, Billy.
Really? Uh-oh.
By the order of the chief who wrote it.
Did Gorsuch win? Let's see.
Chevron is overruled. The vote is 6-3. This is a big one. Kagan dissents, joined by Sotomayor and Jackson. This is the case over. This is going to fundamentally transform our country. And if you're not a legal scholar, it's going to be hard to get this. But basically, we talked about this yesterday. The idea was when the legislative branch is vague in its lawmaking, who gets to make up the rules? And it's up until now has gone traditionally to the executive branch, where experts, and I put those in quotes, but experts within the EPA, for instance, can come up with rules with regards to clean water, clean air that are not specifically written into law. And when they come up with those rules, do they have the force of law behind them? They are returning this back to the courts and giving the courts more power to deal with it. Here's Roberts explains, it defies the command of the Administrative Procedure Act, Chevron does, the law governing federal administrative practices, that reviewing court, not the agency whose action it reviews, is to decide all relevant questions of law and interpret statutory provisions. It requires a court to ignore, not follow, the reading the court would have reached had it exercised the independent judgment as required by the APA.
Ooh.
Chevron's presumption that statutory ambiguities are implicit delegations of authority by Congress to federal agencies is misguided, Roberts explains. Sorry, it keeps jumping down as they keep adding new text to this.
It keeps,
because agencies have no special competence in resolving statutory ambiguities.
Oh, geez.
Courts do.
Wow.
So this, bottom line, Neil Gorsuch will die a happy man. This was his issue. He wrote a lot about this in his book.
And this is a little scary for both sides.
I disagree.
No, because now the courts decide what those rules are. And that's a little spooky, because you're telling, because again, we've gotten to this idea now that, according to one of the presidential candidates, that the judiciary is corrupt. So now we have the corrupt judiciary now deciding these issues. And the other thing that I think will be the unintended consequence is if we get a President Trump back in office, his offices don't have the same power Biden's did to shape rules.
It's true.
And that's going to be something of an unintended consequence, that they're not going to be able to. Some of those things on Project 2025, some of those things they can't accomplish anymore because of this ruling. That's going to change some stuff. This is a shockwave.
I like it because I hate unelected bureaucrats making law. I hate it. It drives me nuts that in this country, the legislative branch has abdicated its role and responsibility to unelected bureaucrats, because it's just hard to pass a law when you, oh my God.
Yeah, because they don't want to. And here's the funny part, though, is you're mad about the legislative branch abdicating their responsibility. So the solution is the judiciary is now taking it over. Like, hang on, hold on here.
Let's go back.
I don't think we're solving this.
But I still,
you're right, though. I agree with you on that. I agree with you on the legislative branch needs to have this authority. You're right. You're right.
All right, we'll continue. Steve, you're going to be up next. Phone lines are open if you want to dive into what happened last night during the disastrous debate for Joe Biden. What do Democrats do next? You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS. They say the brain is the most important organ in your body, but it's your brain telling you that. And so what we just had is the judiciary going, no, we should make the rules. Yeah, it's just because you put on a black robe, somehow that makes you an expert in these areas. But we'll see what happens. Buckle up.
We'll look to see, maybe get Chris Murray here on Monday to give us some insight on that. All right, let's go back to the debates. Oh boy, the Huffington Post, probably with the strongest headline, the debate from hell. Biden's primetime disaster, full Democrat panic, Biden replacement talk. Very clear. We have been lied to by the leaders of this country, saying that Joe Biden is in perfect form. He's brilliant. He's smart. He's doing backflips and solving arithmetic problems. We have seen him in closed-door meetings, and he's brilliant, Kamala Harris says. Alejandro Mayorkas says. MSNBC claims. Joe Scarborough claims. The New York Times says that it's just Republican fiction that Joe Biden isn't up to the task. Well, that was proved wrong last night. What do you do? Where do you go from here? Democrats scrambling. If you're further down on the ticket, if you're a Democrat running in Congress here in Colorado, what do you do with that guy at the top of the ticket? You got to replace him. Yadira Caraveo, where does she go? What does she do? Let's get to the phone line. Steve in Denver. What do you think of last night's debate?
Well, I'm not a Trump person. I'm a Democrat. I don't see how President Biden comes back from this. Trump's, to the extent, we perceive that he has high negatives, they're not going to go away.
Yep.
And RFK is definitely not, it's not going to happen. And
why don't you like RFK? First of all, Steve,
God.
I'm so glad to talk to a Democrat this morning. Thank you. Thank you. I want to get your insight. Why don't you like RFK, and who would you put as the leader of the Democrat Party for president this November?
I think RFK is nuts, and he has absolutely no credibility within the Democratic Party. So that's not going to happen. The likely people that it will probably be one of these people. It'll either be Vice President Harris, it'll be Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, who I think would be excellent. It might be Gretchen Whitmer from Governor of Michigan. And then you have some others, but I think, and obviously Newsom, but I think it will be one of those four. And the only way to do it cleanly is for President Biden to do what LBJ did and Truman did in 1952, and that simply announce that he's not going to run again.
Now, Steve,
go ahead.
Yeah,
Please,
Steve,
Bill.
what I got to ask is, of those choices you had, handicap them for us. We're putting in odds in Vegas. Out of the people you suggested, who has the highest odds, in your opinion, to be that replacement?
To get it or to win?
Just to get it. Yeah, because win, I think, I'm assuming that they will pick the person they think will win, but give us both if you think they're different.
I would think the highest people to get it within the party would be Harris, Gavin Newsom, Josh Shapiro, and Whitmer. Yeah. And I think Shapiro definitely would be the best candidate. He's very impressive. He's moderate in the Democratic ranks. Excellent resume, excellent history.
Why isn't Jared Polis on your list?
Yeah, I just don't think he's at the national, he's not within the national consciousness right now. I don't think, you got to act early. I mean, something's got to happen, and it's got to happen pretty quickly.
And Steve, I've noticed this about Democrats that in leadership in Colorado that try to jump to the national level. Because if you remember, John Hickenlooper and Michael Bennet both ran for president, but they both kind of flamed out around 1 or 2%. They don't seem to translate to the national level. Why is it that Colorado Democrats have that problem?
Well, I think you have to be in the national discussion, the national conversation. I don't think you can run for president and be introducing yourself to the rest of the country.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this question. You referenced LBJ, and Joe Biden could have done that without having to go on the debate stage last night, just like LBJ did. I mean, there wasn't a moment of national embarrassment that LBJ had to say, well, I guess I'm not the right guy. LBJ just I think he hosted it at a dinner, a fundraising dinner. He just said, I'm going to step aside. And I remember listening to the audio and kind of gasps and all that stuff. Why did it require, especially if other people around Joe Biden knew his condition, why did it require a national level of embarrassment of which I have never seen a presidential candidate have to go through for Joe Biden to have to say, okay, I'm going to step aside?
I don't know, but and I think the whole rules of the debate leading up to the debate, the conservative folks and on your show, everybody talked about the rules favoring Trump. I think the rules really hurt Biden. 9:00 at night. I think he was hurt by, if I don't think he can come back from this. I don't see how this could happen. And the Democrat people this morning on the talk shows are going to persevere through. Let's see the next couple of days. But there's never going to be a worldwide audience with this many faces and eyeballs seeing this. And literally within the first 3 minutes, it was over. I mean, right out of the gate. If you watch these things, I remember the Reagan debate with Carter, and within the first 3 or 4 minutes with Reagan, he immediately gained credibility, with his stature and speech. Biden went downhill from the get-go.
Steve, you're exactly right. Yeah. And I didn't even think about Josh Shapiro. I so appreciate you calling and giving that insight.
I didn't think of him either, man. Thanks, man.
You may be calling it. Calling it, Steve. I appreciate the call. I love to hear from Democrats, especially on what happened last night. And more importantly, where does that party go now?
Who do they choose?
Who are you behind?
Possibly choose
That's
at this
who
point.
I want to hear about. You guys have got to figure out. Imagine you're in that strategy room right now. Yeah. You're David Axelrod. You're all those guys. Where do you go? Who do you put up?
And you have a time crunch. You've got a time crunch on this. You've got to get them. There has to be someone that is recognizable enough. You push them up. Yeah. So, give us a call.
So Democrats will get you to the front of the line. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. The Jeff and Bill Show covering all of the post-debate debacle. You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in the UK, I'm John Beaver, and here are the top stories we're following. Last night's CNN presidential debate gave voters a rare side-by-side look at the two oldest candidates ever to seek the US presidency. President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump traded attacks on abortion, immigration, and their handling of the economy. There's been international reaction to the debate as well. Coverage in China has focused on the physical condition of the candidates. Chinese state newspaper The Global Times says the ages of Joe Biden and Donald Trump betray flaws in the US political system. From Hong Kong, Laura Westbrook reports.
Both candidates are vying to be tough on Beijing and have similar economic policies to combat China's rise. Trump is 78 and Biden is 81, and the Global Times says the ages of the candidates paints the US as a gerontocracy. It calls the debate a reality show, focusing less on policies and more about their on-the-spot performance. The report also quotes the Chinese political scientists saying that there was nothing substantial to debate, and viewers were instead more interested in their physical appearance. In Hong Kong, Laura Westbrook for Salem News Channel.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm John Beaver in the UK on Salem News Channel.
Billy, we got some breaking news coming from the U.S. Supreme Court. This is a big one. It's going to affect pretty much every January 6th case out there.
What?
The decision in Fisher versus U.S. 6-3. This is the case about whether a federal law that makes it a crime to corruptly obstruct congressional inquiries and investigations can be used to prosecute participants in the January 6th case. In a 6-3 decision, they held that the federal government used that law too broadly to prosecute.
Ooh, this is the obstruction type charge of people that were just meandering around the Capitol. Court is saying they weren't stopping anything from happening.
More to come. Listen to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 and US.
Nine a.m. in the Mile High City, and Billy, we are landing the airplane steep this morning with all the news coming out. Not only do you have the crazy debate that took place last night, a Democrat party scrambling to figure out what to do. How do they win in November? Who's the head of the ticket? What's going to happen to all the candidates that are lower on the tickets? Oh, my goodness, we've been covering that. But now you got Supreme Court rulings coming out that have to do with Chevron deference. And the latest one, Fisher versus the United States, which is now probably, and I'm no lawyer, but I'm guessing going to open up a lot of those January 6th convictions to revisions, as the U.S. Supreme Court said that the federal government argued too broadly with regards to a law about interrupting official proceedings.
Yeah.
And whether or not that could be aptly applied to somebody just kind of walking around in the Capitol.
So anybody that has been convicted under only that law, if that's what they used, that was the only one they used, their convictions are now up in the air and probably going to be overturned post haste. Yeah, this is a game changer. Also, on a side note, it means Trump just has to pardon fewer people if he gets back. So just fewer names. It's easier. That's all.
All right. We've still got some phone calls we're going to get to. Jim, thanks for sticking around. We do have an open line if you want to talk about these cases, if you want to talk about the debate last night, if you have a theory of where Democrats are going to go now, especially if you're a Democrat. I want to hear from you. What happens? Maybe it was just a bad night. Some have said that. It's a bad night.
Yeah, and if you're a Dem and you give us a call, we'll put you front of the line. We will give you preferential treatment. Yes, here on the conservative 710 KNUS, we will leapfrog you over the Republicans. How often does that happen? Give us a call.
Please do. 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff and Billy. Wow, what a morning. 76 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the low 90s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, the Supreme Court has ruled that the January 6th Capitol rioter who was improperly charged with obstruction. The case involved a former Pennsylvania police officer charged for his alleged participation in the attack on the Capitol. The justices ruled 6-3 that the government's broad use of a 2002 law that specifically deals with obstruction does not apply to the officer and, by extension, others. The Supremes also ruled in favor of a group of fishermen who challenged a decades-old legal doctrine that they say gave the administrative state too much power over their business. The Supremes have also said that cities can enforce bans on homeless people camping outside. The court also ruling. Yes, go ahead.
Mike Johnston, pay attention.
Yeah,
pay
that's
attention.
Right. Hello, Mr. Mayor. No doubt, man. This has been a crazy hour. All this stuff coming down, Blake, in the last 30 minutes.
I kind of feel like pretty dang good about the direction of our country right now.
Same here.
I'll be honest with you.
I'm right there with you.
I feel like Joe Biden's been exposed.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the Dems that were hiding him and claiming he was fine have been exposed as the liars they are.
Yep.
Donald Trump, I thought, looked great yesterday. Now you got the Supreme Court cases coming out. The administrative state has been unraveled or is being unraveled by Chevron. The improper imprisonment of some of those people on January 6th simply for walking around, that has been called out. It's a pretty good day for America, Blake.
No doubt. I'm right there with you. A friend of mine said, you know what? I feel more free than I did 2 years ago. And I couldn't agree with him more. No doubt.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
All right. Are you kidding me? This dude has been out of it for 4 years at least. And the debate last night, President Biden, after that, he may be asked to step aside by Democrats after the performance.
What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in the way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border legally. It's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
Look, and then there's Vice President Harris. She may be pushed aside as well. We'll see.
This was not a strong performance tonight from President Biden.
Well, it was a slow start. There's no question about that. But I thought it was a strong finish.
Now, Van Jones, who likes to cry a lot on the air, he didn't cry last night, at least on the air.
But he had a test to meet tonight to restore confidence of the country and of the base, and he failed to do that. And I think there's a lot of people who are going to want to see him consider taking a different course now. We're still far from our convention, and there is time for this party to figure out a different way forward if he will allow us to do that. But that was not what we needed from Joe Biden, and it's personally painful for a lot of people. It's not just panic, it's pain.
That's going to be a fight with him. Biden in a Waffle House in Atlanta after the debate.
How did you perform tonight?
I think we did well.
Any concerns about your performance?
No, it's hard to debate a liar.
Hard to debate a liar.
New York Times age lied 26 times.
All right, the only reason I play that is because the important fact there, as Billy said, Sheriff Steve Reams from Weld County, awesome. What a great dude. Called in, and the song in the background is Miranda Lambert. Yeah, man, I listened to it for about 3 minutes, too. What a great song. Thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate that. Biden and the First Lady will travel to Raleigh this afternoon. Trump will hold a rally in Virginia. Representative Thomas Massey from Kentucky reporting on his X account that the love of his life of 35 years, Rhonda, has passed away. They have 4 children. Man, really smart, creative, fun-loving couple. Train service between 2 Colorado communities is back on. A mudslide last weekend covered 200 feet of track of the Durango and Silverton narrow gauge railroad, cutting the scenic tour route in half. It took crews 6 days to remove rocks and debris. 2 women and a man wounded in a Thursday night shooting in Aurora. It happened near Smoky Hill in East Quincy. One of the women suffered life-threatening injuries. The 3 victims were taken to a hospital, and while one person was detained, no word on any charges at this time. In sports, Bronny James, the son of one of the best players of all time, probably number 3 on the list, in my opinion. LeBron, drafted by the Lakers, 55th overall last night. 69 in Castle Rock, 73 in Greeley, 76 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue TGIF. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
KNUS forecast keeps it hot again this Friday, but then temperatures going to be swinging up and down over the next several days. Lower to maybe a mid-90 today, lower 80s Saturday, low to mid-90s and Sunday to Monday, a little bit cooler by next Tuesday. There will be some hit-and-miss showers and thunderstorms today. Touch of thunderstorm activity possible as well on Saturday, and a little better flow of moisture and scattered storms Sunday into Monday. I'm meteorologist Mark Hewer in the KNUS Weather Center. Weather sponsored by Branch Planning. Some income annuities are paying 25 to 45% more than last year. Get a free retirement review by calling Branch Planning today at 720-651-9800. Find out more at branchplanning.com.
This is one of those really fun mornings in talk radio. Everybody's engaged. Everyone's tuning in. People are calling, text messaging. Oh, it's everything we love about this show and what we aim it to be. This is where your voice is heard loud and clear. Speaking of that, let's go to the phone lines. Jared in Aurora, you are a Democrat. What'd you think about what happened last night?
You're welcome.
Ooh, it was, well, good morning, guys. It was rough. I'll make it brief so you guys can, move on with the show. But the bottom line is Mr. Biden needed to come out with some stamina. He didn't. I don't know about the hoarse voice thing that was going on. I personally think he might have woken up with a horse without a voice. And I'm sure his media team was like, oh boy, we're already in trouble with your age and all that stuff. Now you don't have a voice. I'm sure that was a shocker to them when that happened. And then, of course, we saw what happened last night. It didn't look good. Now, Donald was Donald, but I got to tell you this. He looked healthy. and Joe did not.
Yeah.
And it was rough, guys. It was rough.
So, Jared, what do you do? And I think you said you're a Democrat. What do you do with this? Are you looking for somebody else at this point? Do you think the Democrat Party should? I imagine you do not want Donald Trump to be president. So what's going through your mind?
Yeah, it wouldn't. Let's put it this way: it wouldn't surprise me if something happened, and I would be okay with it. Let's just put it that way. Donald Trump, I'll admit, I've not been a fan of him. I think he lies a lot. There are a few things that I like about him. Because I'll tell you this: I'm not a hardcore Democrat. I'm common sense. So if there's somebody I like in the Republican Party, I won't hesitate to vote. Some things I like about Donald, I love his, don't mess with us attitude. I've always liked that. I don't think Ukraine would have happened if he was in office. But what happened last night, let's just put it this way, not good for Joe. And I think the Democrats are probably panicking.
Jared, I appreciate the call. Jared from
thank you.
Aurora, very insightful. Thanks for being honest, man.
Thank you,
I
man.
really appreciate
and
that.
I appreciate what he says about the hoarse voice.
Yeah.
And I'm certain, and my guess would be that hoarse voice came from practice, that he'd been doing debate practice. They were talking about it, and he'd been using the voice more than he probably had. So I'm thinking, and again, that's a self-inflicted wound.
Yeah.
I kind of think that what he did is he overtaxed the voice, and it's a self-inflicted wound. But I'll tell you what, within 5 seconds of when Joe Biden first spoke on stage, my wife, who's spent over a decade in high-level PR, and myself, who's all this time in radio, turned to each other and went, oh, that's not good. And it's not about supporting Biden or not supporting Biden. It's about the performance.
Sounds,
and the performance. That sounds awful. And there's no ability to project.
So
There's no ability to create an emotion inside the voice. It's like coming out there and you're playing a saxophone and your reed is broken. That's what it was for him last night. He couldn't play.
Yeah, that's a really good description. And when you combine that with low energy and a forgetfulness, it just compounds.
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember the very first time Hugh Hewitt invited me to come on his show.
Yeah.
I had a cold.
Oh, no.
So I raced down to Walgreens because I wasn't going to say no.
Yeah.
Right?
Gosh,
It's
no.
like Hugh Hewitt. And
Of
he
course
was
you say
over
yes.
at CCU. And so I had this scratchy voice. I went and bought the throat spray.
Oh, yeah.
I drank tea, throat coat. I did all I could.
Yeah.
And then I showed up and I pressed through it and probably was overly exaggerating to try to compensate for the fact that I had a bit of a scratchy voice. But I think when you combine it with everything.
Yeah. There is
just compounded
in radio. Just on a side note, in radio, there's that window when you get a cold. You got about 3 days where your voice sounds better than it ever does because it gets just enough bass and graveliness. Yeah, that's
there's
when
a whole
you do.
Friends episode on.
Oh yeah, you do the whole Barry.
Shoes.
You do the Barry White read.
All right, are we going to Jim?
Yeah.
In Colorado. Thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill show. What's on your mind? What'd you think of that debate last night?
Hey guys, good morning. Hey, what a wonderful time to be a lawyer in America.
You are right.
My God, who could have designed it better than a lawyer to fall into place like this? Hey, I don't think the Democrats can do anything, but they got one move to make. They've got to nominate, I forget his real name, Hellboy. He can come up there and do the next debate smoking a cigar with his makeup on, and maybe their vice president can be Robert De Niro. What do you think?
Oh, I like De Niro as the vice. That is a good callback. I like that.
But no, maybe.
Hellboy,
I just want to throw
Donald
this out there. What if there was a call to George Clooney?
Oh, geez, that would be weird.
But, any of that crap would work. It's pure entertainment right now.
It is.
And I got to
for the
tell
Dems,
you,
that would work.
I think it would work for the
Absolutely.
Dems. Honestly, nobody likes Gavin
I
Newsom.
agree.
Nobody knows Jared Polis. You could elect somebody purely on celebrity and anti-Trump sentiment. I wonder if they make that call today.
Now, here's the thing, Jim. You were talking about Hellboy.
I think they could.
Yeah, you were talking about the Hellboy actor. I had to make sure. I had to do the search the Google machine to make sure it was right, but to make sure in my head the name that popped up is correct. And the actor is Ron Perlman. Perlman would be very interesting. And again, given his stature, given his gruffness, given how he sits there, if you were going to have a central casting of a person that you put on stage next to Donald Trump to create this kind of interesting dynamic between the two, Perlman would be good. I mean, he's a guy that I would cast. I'm not sure if he could pull off the job, but yeah, man, Perlman, he would have the right ability to give that gravitas of delivery. Whether or not he have any substance, who knows? But that may not be important at this point.
Nobody's pulling off the job. I mean, the CIA is running the joint, right? I mean, and look at it this way: if Donald Trump, here's the bad thing: if Donald Trump gets elected, we're going to celebrate just like we did years ago. But for me, it would be a terrible, terrible thing because he is going to keep the Democrat Party alive. No one is going to revitalize the Democrat Party 4 years from now more than Donald Trump. I fear.
And the media, they're going to get more viewers from Donald Trump than anybody else. Frank, Jim, I appreciate the call. Jim, great call. Thanks so much. Jim's line will be open 303-696-1971. We get to George Brauchler here in just a second. He's going to give us a little insight into this Chevron deference case. Want to talk to you all about Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. I've gotten to know Gay through this job, and she is absolutely delightful. She's one of those names in Denver that everybody kind of knows. But look, she's a real estate agent that, for a number of reasons, I'm going to give you three in particular, is absolutely the best person you should hire when it comes to selling or buying a new home. All right. So first of all, Gay Ribble is a delightful person. This is one of the most stressful things you can do is selling your house. You want somebody, she's like this radiant light. She's just so wonderful to work with. You're going to want to have somebody like that. Number two, she shares our values. She invests in the station. She helps support the show, but she also gives back to orphans in the state of Colorado because she was an orphan herself. She wants to help them find their forever homes. I love that about her. And number three, and probably most important, she is a titan when it comes to selling a home. She sells a home 1.5 times faster than most people. She earns $30,000 more on average for the sale of a home than other real estate agents do. That's all because she has 14,700 pre-approved buyers ready to go to sell a home. So she's going to get the best dollar for you. Look, we all got friends and family members and friends in the neighborhood that are real estate agents. She is going to get you the most money, because at the end of the day, this is a business deal and you got to get that for your family. So check out Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team by giving them a call at 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. All right, big U.S. Supreme Court case decision on Chevron deference. If you know anything about Neil Gorsuch, this is like his thing. He wrote about it all in his book, that this is a big problem for our country. We have too big of an administrative state, rules and laws being made by people that are not elected, and we need to address it. Big decision coming down. And to help us understand what this means, George Brauchler, by the way, is he the new DA, or is he just win the Republican nominee? Now he's got to go into the okay. Yeah. So we still got another race, yes, but he's going to win this anyways.
Yeah, he will.
George Brauchler, first of all, congratulations on your big victory Tuesday night. Thanks for joining us to help us understand what the Supreme Court case means.
Yeah, because I'm a little confused, sir. I thought Chevron deference means we just get better gas prices. Evidently not.
Wish. First, thank you guys. Big win on Tuesday, much bigger than I expected. So I'm very proud of the team that put this together. Before we get into that, can I just make one observation about the debate last night? And I know we're talking about how each person fared, but each one of them benefited from the poor performance of the other. And I want you to imagine a Joe Biden versus, and this is to disparage Trump, Joe Biden versus a Ron DeSantis in that same setting. Yep. How much worse would Joe Biden have looked if it was Donald Trump versus, and I'm going to say Gavin Newsom, how much worse would that performance have been perceived? So even though it appears that the president came off the rails early and scared the hell out of his own party, which is great, it would have been much worse had there been somebody else on that other side who had the energy and the punchiness and stuff. I mean, if it was Donald Trump from 2016, it would have looked entirely different as well. So anyway, look, the Chevron thing, epic decision. And for people that don't track what this case was about, there are fishermen in Rhode Island and New Jersey brought separate lawsuits. They had been told by the federal government that, hey, we're going to put monitors on your boats to make sure you're doing the things we command you to do. And oh, by the way, you will now have to pay for them to be on your boats. And the fishermen, who have very thin margins to begin with, were like, I don't think so. So they went and filed a lawsuit. And the lower federal courts, because of this Chevron deference, which has been around for 40 years, said, hey, listen, man, we're going to allow federal agencies to fill in these gaps where it's unclear what Congress intended. That is ridiculous. That is horrible. And it has allowed for an explosion of the administrative state, which you and I can't hold anybody accountable for. And so this Chevron decision, this overturning of Chevron, is epic. And what it really does is place back on Congress the responsibility to do something, to actually come up and legislate. They can't just pass 20 words and let the administrative agencies fill in the other 100,000. They're going to have to be more specific with the powers that they grant. And honestly, when you guys said, hey, I feel more free today, that is this decision. More than anything else, this decision will lead to that.
Now, George, I want to take Billy's side on this. He said, well, now are we just going to allow people in black robes to come up with rules?
Yeah, because I need a black robe then.
No, I don't think so. Instead, what I think is going to happen is we're not asking judges to take on the role of experts in this situation. I think what you're going to see more of is courts. And if you read the part that Chief Justice Roberts had written about this isn't overturning any past cases that relied on Chevron, but what it's telling lower courts now is, hey, you don't just have to shrug and say, okay, whatever the administrative state says. Instead, what it's going to say is, administrative state, you don't have the authority to do this. Go back to Congress and get the authority. So it's not going to be them imposing rules on anyone. It's going to be pushing back on the federal government's willingness through unelected means to impose rules on people.
Now, George, I want to ask you about the other major decision coming out about January 6th. Over 300 people were charged with obstruction by the Justice Department, the Supreme Court saying, hey, you guys, are you reading this law too broadly? This is too narrow. Go back and reevaluate. How's this going to affect those convictions?
Yeah, I think it's going to have a significant potential impact on this. It's a case-by-case basis. A lot of the folks that have been prosecuted that got into the media actually did stuff beyond just that. But for the folks that got sucked into this process through that charge, and again, think about what's happened here. This is, I'm going to take a 30,000-foot view. This is akin to Chevron. This is the court coming in and saying, hang on, DOJ, you can't just take these words in the statute and bend them and origami them into any situation you'd like. You've got to have a specific delegation of authority through a criminal statute that specifies this kind of conduct. So what we've seen here is this conservative Supreme Court has pushed back on the executive branch's, I guess, overreach when it comes to the use of their massive powers that they have already. It's the right thing to do for the court to act in this way. They're not creating new rights. They're not coming up with the details that Congress didn't put in. What they're saying to the federal government is, get your stuff together. If you're going to exercise authority, be specific.
Great analysis. George Brauchler, the Republican nominee for DA in Judicial District 23. Now, George, I got to ask you more of a personal question. Are you excited getting back into the idea of building a DA's office? Now, you won the Republican nomination. I imagine you have an opponent, but you're going to win this. This is a very conservative district. So is that where the gears are turning right now in your mind? I'm building an office, who I want to bring in, how we're going to direct it. Give us a little insight.
Yeah, 100%. So what I have already done is to reach out to each of the sheriffs in the jurisdiction and said, hey, I'm going to take a little time off here, take a knee for a bit. But when I come back in July, I'd love to get together with you and sit down and have that one-on-one conversation about what is it we want to do here. We have 6 months really to build something. What is it we want to do? What's the office going to look like? What are our priorities? And then expand that meeting to probably the rest of the chief executives, which are the chiefs of police for the various agencies, and then expand it beyond that to the other stakeholders. I've asked the commissioners through Commissioner Teal to now include me on every single meeting that has anything to do with the 23rd Judicial District. I'm not a decision maker, but I want to see how the sausage gets made before I get in there and take over the place. And then I've reached out, of course, to DA John Kellner to say, hey, you and I should get together when we're free here and talk about what the organization is you'd like to have in place, personnel. So, man, there's no time to let up here. And again, I'm not acting like I'm already the DA, but short of something epic happening, I don't think the I've never practiced criminal law attorney from Progressive Law LLC is going to win. It's just a guess.
George, what gets me excited about this, we talked with Dustin Zvonik yesterday about this. The best argument conservatives have in the state of Colorado right now is to demonstrate leadership, especially at the local level. They have turned Aurora around. Aurora is looking great because of Kaufman, because of Zvonik, because of Danielle Jurinsky, because of our other friends on that. We got conservatives into leadership, and we're demonstrating our ideas work to see you take Judicial District 23, to fight crime, to keep Douglas and Elbert and Lincoln safe. That's going to be the best argument for us to start to take control back statewide. George Brauchler, thanks so much for jumping on the show and giving us some insight on these Supreme Court cases.
See you guys. Talk to you soon.
Take care.
Have a great weekend, buddy. All right, we'll continue with the phone calls. We do have one line open if you want to jump in here. 303-696-1971. Frank and Don, you guys are going to be up next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in the UK, I'm John Beaver, and here are the top stories we're following. Last night's CNN presidential debate gave voters a rare side-by-side look at the two oldest candidates ever to seek the US presidency. President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump traded attacks on abortion, immigration, and their handling of the economy. The current president sounded raspy and stumbled over his words on several occasions during the debate. Two White House officials said President Biden had a cold. The UK right-wing politician Nigel Farage has apologised after campaigners for his party were secretly filmed using racist and homophobic language. The long-term Donald Trump ally called the language reprehensible, and his Reform Party said anyone expressing similar opinions would not be welcome to help them campaign for next week's general election. Feeding family and friends on a July 4th cookout will be 5% higher than last year, according to a new survey. The US Farm Bureau found that although the price of ground beef is up by about 11%, the cost of chicken is down 4% from summer 2023. Across all foods, prices in the US are expected to be 2% higher this year. That's down from a 3% increase last year. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm John Beaver in the UK on Salem News Channel.
What a day for freedom in America. Joe Biden's candidacy for president collapses in a single debate.
Yes, and shout out to everybody who gets the double entendre here of playing Little Lion Man. Yeah. Lion. Again, you're my music peeps. I appreciate
you. Are funny. I am living in Billy's bar night trivia
yes,
right
you
now,
are.
aren't
Yes,
I?
absolutely, you are.
The key to that, Bill always talks about this. He gets very excited.
Yeah.
He weaves in the answers
Into the music.
Yeah,
my favorite one was recently. Question was basically about Persia, and you don't have a song about Persia, so you got to reach back into the 80s and you play Flock of Seagulls, I Ran So Far Away, because Persia is Iran. Again, I'm an idiot and a nerd.
I wouldn't say idiot.
I'm such a
but
nerd.
You are unique, and I am so happy you found a woman that loves this.
I can't believe it either. I am as shocked as you are, my friend. I'm as shocked. Not only that, but she allowed me to procreate with her more than once. Seriously, this is a really weird world we live in.
You are a gift to this world, Billy. Before we get to the calls, I want to talk to you about another gift to this world. Our friend Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. I've known Dan for over a decade now. This guy is pro-life, pro-family, pro-America. He's with us on the values and supports the stations. That matters a lot because Dan suggests that you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. He's the son of a police officer. He's a former seminarian, and he served the people of Colorado for the last 40 years of his life trying to help them who, if they're hurt in a serious motor vehicle crash. But more than that, he's a titan in the courtroom because you want to win at the end of the day, right? Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law, a serious firm for serious cases, but Dan isn't just going to restrict this to the uber wealthy. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call at 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dancapluslaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. All right, let's go to Frank. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. What's on your mind, Frank?
Good morning.
Hey, first, I'd like to send our condolences to Thomas Massey on the loss of his wife.
Yeah.
He was one of the smartest, most well-thought-out Republicans that we have, and people should listen to him more often. So
I agree.
Much appreciated, yeah.
And second, kudos to you and Billy. Jeff, I think you guys have masterfully handled a whole lot of diverse calls this morning. Thirdly, we need more Democrats like that Democrat guy. Was it Jared that called in?
Yeah, that was cool.
Who keep an open mind, and thank you for putting them to the front of the line. We need their input, but bigger, we need their help, I think, going forward, because this truly is a post 9/11 month or time, because we got too many people that are looking at our potential weaknesses. The thing I want to make a point I want to make about Biden's showing last night was we know that this has been in existence for a while. It's on tape. The special prosecutor found it, and he said, I don't have the ability to prosecute this guy because of his mental. So my question, it's a legal question. If he doesn't have the ability to prosecute because of his mental capacity, does Biden, and how long has he not had the competency to sign, these bills that he's signed into law? And how far back does that extend? What weight does that bear on the, legality of these things? It's really sad that this has been going on, and we have to look into the people that have allowed this to happen and their complicity in allowing this to happen. And I don't know whether we need an oversight committee or something that does checks and balances, because that's what the oversight committees are supposed to be. But it's just a sad comment on our system of government.
Well, Frank, it seems like what they're going to try to do with Joe Biden is get him back out there to see if he can recover, right? He's got a rally today. He did the Waffle House last night. All right. Before we jump off a cliff here, let's give him a few days. To Blake's point, let's give him 17 days, see if he thinks that that's where the line is going to be.
Well, Biden,
but go ahead.
Biden is trying. I mean, he's got a combination of mental deficits. He's got those history of aneurysm things.
That's right.
He sputters and misses. And then he's got age. And we know that the vascular component of age, we all get a little forgetful. I mean, the poor guy is well-meaning, but it's sad because we need our best people. In the movie Patton, I don't remember if you remember a scene in there where George, says, it's too bad that we have to send all our good young men to fight and die on these fields of battle. It's too bad we couldn't just have one good champion from each side and let them fight and do our bidding. And it's almost like who is our best person for president? And even then, he has to have a cabinet. He has to have a lot of other people to help us make the right decision. So it's a giant task.
Frank,
Billy asked me for who the Dems will come up with a nominee.
Yeah.
I don't know who they'll come up. They've got a giant problem because it should be somebody serious that just does not put forth a party thing. It's got to be a country thing, and it can't be all ideological just because the money's coming in to support those things.
Yeah.
It should be something that's good for the country.
You got a point
Frank,
there, yeah. They've got a
great
problem with it,
call.
man.
Really
Thank you. Have a
appreciate
good
it.
weekend.
Thanks so much. We've had a really great day of phone calls. Absolutely jam-packed lines the entire show. I love it. This is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. I want to talk to you about UltraCur. It probably could have helped Joe last night. Our buddies at UltraCur. Look, this is a natural curcumin product that gives you a little bit of edge. It helps you experience wellness and to overcome pain. UltraCur is a patented, non-prescription natural capsule that works fast. Experience UltraCur for free. Go to any Denver Metro Natural Grocers and ask for the health coach or the vitamin manager for your free 3-day trial of UltraCur. It's a patented technology giving you the true edge to support peak wellness, energy, Joe Biden, and an active lifestyle. If you've tried other curcumin products, why not give UltraCur a try today? Head to the Natural Grocers, grab your free 3-day UltraCur trial with no strings attached. If you're wondering about the research, get the lowdown at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. All right, let's go to Don and Aurora. Don, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Great show. I have maybe a different view on this than most people.
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit. I think the champagne, the popping of the champagne corks is maybe a little premature. If this was going to be some sort of conspiracy to set up Joe Biden, then the people who set this guy up has got to have somebody in mind to take over. I don't necessarily believe that, but if that's the case, this whole thing has to be settled by the end of this week. They can't allow this to linger.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think they're going to give him a little bit of time to try to figure it out. I don't think it's a conspiracy. I think that the leaders within the Democrat Party, and yes, you can have factions within the party, of course, but the leaders in the Democrat Party were making the case that this guy had already beat Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton had not. None of the Republican, Nikki Haley couldn't get there.
And don't forget State of the Union. State of the Union, he looked solid. And
Yeah,
gave
he looked
everybody
solid.
hope.
So,
Everybody hope on that side.
they go, this guy can do it. At least get him through November and get elected. And if he wants to resign and the vice president takes over, that's fine. That's a whole separate conversation. But the idea that they just put him out there to sabotage him, that doesn't make any sense to me, because he could have easily have just said, I'm not going to do this like LBJ did, and not embarrassed himself. I think they really believed he could perform, and this was a failure. And you see it in Van Jones's comments where he's like heartbroken over watching his friend be nationally embarrassed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but but then you go, by the way, I completely agree with that, by the way. But they got to do something. They can't run this guy. I don't think this guy's going to last till November, let alone 4 years.
Right.
So who do they replace him with? The Democrats have no bench.
Now, Don, what I think you're right about is the lack of conspiracy theories, because there isn't someone that is waiting. So let's talk about that bench just for a second, where you were going. Now, if you had to set odds in Vegas, the people that I see near the top are Kamala and Newsom as the top two. Do you see anybody else? How would you rank them, and how would you place the odds? And the third level to that is, do you include Polis, our very own governor, in that potential replacement?
Well, first, let me just kind of about Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom. Kamala Harris is a dimwit. Okay, I don't think there's any argument about that.
Yep.
And Gavin Newsom, I mean, all you have to do is come up with the catchphrase. Gavin Newsom wants to do for America what he did for California. The ads practically write themselves.
Yep.
If you're going to get somebody, you've got to get a Democratic governor from a state that isn't a train wreck. I think Jerry Polis is a completely viable candidate. He doesn't have a lot of name recognition, so a lot of the low information voters aren't going to know that much about him.
He's also not that interesting. He's not a very good, compelling speaker either. He kind of paid for his seat by outspending Heidi Ganahl and Walker Stapleton, but he is not an inspirational leader.
Yeah, you also look at the Republican Party. It's been a hot mess for about the last 20 years.
Yeah, right.
I don't see any. The only thing I can think of, like I said before, is you got to find a governor from a state that isn't a train wreck.
Yeah, that's where Josh Shapiro was recommended. He's the governor of Pennsylvania by another Democrat that had called in. Don, Aurora, really appreciate it. We're just out of time.
Have a good weekend.
We'll continue back in just a second. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Billy, the only way to wrap up this wild day is with News the News Loser Edition.
Yes, it is time for those stories that were not deemed worthy earlier in the week. We call this Loser Day.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
Loser!
Let's go. Loser! You're a loser!
The Losers Club. Bunch of losers.
You're such a loser. You made me feel like a loser!
She's a loser.
You are such a loser.
Loser.
Yes, that is right. It is the loser edition if you choose the news. The people that are in power here that don't know we play this silly game have just entered their Friday morning meeting. We've got a window of time here to bring you really ridiculous stories that we have found on the interwebs throughout the week and give them more stupid headlines to play this fake radio news game show. Here are the stories that were deemed unworthy by Mr. Hunt earlier this week. Alrighty, sir. Second shot at glory. Headline number 1, court case, hurt feelings versus pants on fire. Headline number 2, game show surprise. Headline number 3, quality is job 1. And headline number 4, at least it's solo. Your choice, sir.
Let's talk about solo.
Yeah, at least it's solo. It's better than what could have happened. We're going to St. Louis, Missouri for this one. Recently, a Spanish Lake man was arrested because on the Metrolink train, they caught him having sex. Yes, the man was having sex on the Metrolink train, but not with anybody, with the seat. Yes, he was rubbing up against the seat and doing naughty things to it. So he's been arrested for this. Oddly enough, he has kind of this, I'd say, predilection. He is also facing charges of trying to abuse other people. So at least he was not involving anybody else at this particular time. But again, he looked at the train seat and said, got to get me some of that.
So lonely.
Exactly. Alrighty, sir. Second choice. Hurt feelings versus pants on fire. Game show surprise or quality is job 1.
Hurt feelings versus pants on fire.
Yeah, we go to New Zealand for this one. A woman is trying to sue her significant other because he said he was going to take her to the airport. He didn't show up that morning, and she missed her flight. She had to reschedule, taking a whole bunch of extra stress and time. She took him to court. And guess what? The judge said, dude didn't put a ring on it, means he's really just a friend. And sometimes your friends suck. And yeah, even if you're seeing them naked, they don't have to do what you need. So yeah, that kind of stinks.
Yeah. That's someone who's been spurned. It's a spurned lover.
Yes, it is. Someone's very, very angry. Alrighty, final choice this morning, and you choose the news. Game show surprise or quality is job 1.
Game show surprise, please.
Yeah,
Mr.
game
Bill.
show surprise. This is about The Price is Right. Drew Carey has taken over for Bob Barker, and he said, yeah, Price is Right is super popular with the younger demographic, especially the college kids. But that comes with them some things that are a little bit of a problem. He says a large majority of the contestants that show up and get on stage are actually either drunk or high. He says, explains a lot when you see their bad bids and things that they do incorrectly. He said, but I can't count the number of times that someone's come up and is finishing off a gummy or they reek of alcohol. The one person he pointed out was a dude that admitted he was actually tripping on hallucinogenics during the show.
Oh, man.
And when Drew asked him what he did for a living, he said he was a skateboarding rabbi. Dude was tripping balls and had no idea really where he even was. And Drew says it's fun, but it makes the show incredibly more challenging because they're not in their right mind.
Yeah, seriously. Tailgating taking place outside in the Price is Right parking lot.
I know, it's ridiculous. That's it, sir. That is You Choose the News. As always, you are the winner, and I'm just the big giant loser.
Guys, I got to tell you, one of the best shows we've ever had analyzing the disastrous debate. Thank you to everybody that called. Check out 710knus.com to download the podcast. And Charlie Kirk coming up next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you Monday.